They're at noon Central, 10 Pacific. The alpha has been announced for the War Within. There was some people who had the ability to go and play it, including myself. There was actually a decent amount of stuff on the alpha. Again, there's going to be a lot of posts on Wowhead within the next hour. I would say the biggest thing for alpha is that we saw was, okay, there was some lore implication stuff, but I think the biggest thing that we saw for alpha was a lot of the classes were mostly finished. Pretty much every single spec had at least one hero talent that was available for testing. There was actually a decent amount of reworks for classes in general, and that's going to be one of the big things that we're going to be focusing on today was the class changes. So being the person that I am, we have scheduled some interesting stuff for you today. So basically, we're going to have some class writers coming on and kind of talking about the class changes that we saw and the hero talents that we're going to be seeing. Let's cut to the good stuff. Class and talent tree reworks within the War Within. We're going to start. I'm going to bring Voulk in, and we can talk about this basically whenever. Hello, Voulk. I've just dragged you in. Okay. So for those who don't know, oh wow, let me unmute him. All right, for those who don't know, Voulk is a class guide writer here at Wowhead. He writes the Preservation Evoker and the Resto Druid guides, correct?
That's right.
Okay. On top of that, he's just well known to be playing most of the healer specs, and a lot of healers got changes.
I think people have been looking for healer changes for a while.
Yeah.
We'll see if this is the batch they were looking for. I think some people are going to be happy, some people less so, and some of the changes are kind of neutral.
Okay. All right, where do you want to start? What spec do you want to start with? So today, Voulk is going to be covering Preservation Evoker, Holy Paladin, and Restoration Druid. So where do you want to start?
I start with Druid because I think Druid is the most stuff almost, and I think that Druid is in the most precarious place on live right now, so it was probably looking for the most changes.
Okay, so do you want to start with the Resto tree, or do you want to start with the Druid tree in general? Because I think both of those got changed.
So let's start with the spec tree.
Okay.
Since I guess I was given slightly less of a preview than you. I know the spec tree better than the class tree, so let's start there, and then the class tree will be a nice surprise.
Okay, I've already I guess that's fair because I went and looked at the class tree, so I can weigh in a little bit on it.
All right, so yeah, that's true. So in terms of the spec tree, Adaptive Swarm is gone, which I was never a very big fan of Adaptive Swarm, but I know that a lot of Mythic Pluses in particular really enjoyed it, so that one's probably going to be an interesting change. It was replaced by Call of the Elder Druid, which is
okay, so it's right here. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of available as a legendary in Shadowlands, I think, but now it has an extra node that also heals for a portion of the damage you deal. This is the kind of thing that's really fun to play in Mythic Plus usually, but it's just really hard to find like a good place for it in Raid, which is something you could use to describe a growing portion of the Resto Druid tree at this point.
I will say something that's not super clear here is they've actually removed Resto's ability to go into Moonkin form. Moonkin form is now no longer a talent. It's part of the balance kit baseline.
That's probably good. Like, whenever Resto Druid used balance form, it was always awkward. Like, you'd only ever do it if it was numerically very far ahead, which was very rare. I think we got more people asking if we were Boomkin weaving now than time we actually ever spent Boomkin weaving.
Okay, that's fair.
And also, it creates awkwardness in like Raid, where you have to spend a GCD to go into Boomkin form if you want to take advantage of stuff like Master Shapeshifter and stuff. So I think that would be a good change.
Dream of Cenarius was the 1 minute off of Tranquility talent, right, in the past?
Yeah, it might have been. It's replacing Unbridled Swarm here, so I assume it's just the next node up.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, like the problem is Wrath and Shred are never going to do enough damage to actually cover a mechanic, so it's basically just letting you spend more time in DPS forms by helping cover some of like the minor damage you have to mop up sometimes.
Okay.
But I think it's an interesting talent. I think it'll be very fun in Mythic Plus. The thing I noticed in the spec tree overall that I think is the biggest problem is, and they did a lot of this in Season 3 as well, they don't seem to like Rejuvenation as a button, which is fine in Mythic Plus. but in Raid, it's kind of been the bread and butter for so long that I'm not sure about the direction the tree is going in general.
There's also something with like flourish, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be the if you're a raiding Resto Druid, then this is probably going to be your worst change. So Flourish and Photosynthesis share a node now.
Yeah.
And those are like two of your best tier 3 talents, and they also synergize quite well together since the hot speed increase is multiplicative. And so now you have to choose between a small extension and a 25% increased tick rate on a cooldown, or a 20% increased tick rate at all times. And so I think if that is the direction they want to go, where they want that to be like the big power node, then I think Flourish has to come up a lot to be kind of worthy of the spot. Flourish kind of not very good right now.
Flourish isn't very good right now. Do you think that anything is gonna? I mean, why is it not good now?
They just nerfed it by a lot.
Okay.
And so like its key role right in Raid was that was your big burst button. Keys like Tranquility haven't done good healing in like 3 expansions, and that's fine because
Exactly.
they're not very interesting. But like Flourish is your big short cooldown button. And in Season 3, they nerfed it by a lot. They reduced the cooldown a little bit, but they nerfed the hot speed increase by like a substantial amount. Like it went from 100 to 25. But you're using it as your burst button. So if you don't have it as a burst button, then it just doesn't really do anything.
Makes sense. Okay,
so if they're trying to push Druid into like this different role as like a healer that just deals with rot damage,
yeah,
then that could be fine on paper, but that's never really the part that's killing you in a fight, at least in the recent past. Like you pretty much assigned for the big damage moments, and then everything outside of that can be solo healed.
Is this going to be like? Do you think this is going to end up being better for Mythic Plus druids? Which is, it seems
I
like
think
an
so. I think
increasingly
they've
larger.
slowly crafted the most interesting Mythic Plus healing spec in the game over the last few patches.
Makes sense.
I think that the Flourish photosynthesis thing doesn't matter as much in Mythic Plus because Flourish is not as big in Mythic Plus. You get some extra stuff to play with, like Prosperity is back.
Okay.
It's a tier 3 node, so that's pretty deep. That was quite popular last time it was available in Mythic Plus and BFA.
That was the Swiftman 2 charges.
Yeah, Swiftman 2 charges. And it's a bit better now than it was back then because you've got Reforestation now as well, which procs every 3 Swiftmen. So that gives you like some flexibility on your timing there.
That'll be super sick. Okay, so
let's look
at
nice.
Let's look at the class talents, because I think that Resto Druid was the spec that had the worst time with the Druid tree, and it got better. I think that the Druid tree in general did get a little bit better, but there was still. I mean, I feel like it's still hard whenever. I don't know how you feel about playing other specializations, but I feel like other specializations and other classes don't really give up anything, but Druid still has to give up some stuff to be able to get everything they want. The
Druid class tree was always very restrained because you had to spend a lot of points to get 3% versatility, and a lot of the points you spent to get like 3% verse isn't even very interesting, right? It's power in the class tree, and so you path to it if you can, even if you have to get stuff that wasn't useful very often.
Okay, so the new nodes.
I'm looking at this class tree for the first time here.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look.
I think fluid form. Okay, so it's Shred and Rake can now be used in any form, and it shifts you immediately into cat form. Mangle can be used in any form, and now shifts you into bear form. Wrath and Starfire shift you into Moonkin form if known. I think that will actually be kind of interesting for more of a cat weaving Resto Druid build.
That probably will be very fun to play. Like personally, I never minded the GCD on cat form, but I know that it's a common request that you have an easier way to shift in and out, and taking form swapping off the GCD was never going to be a very good answer. So I think I like this. It's going to be slightly awkward keybinding wise, but we'll work it out.
Oak Skin with Survival Instincts and Bark Skin now reduce damage taken by an additional 10%. And so this is where I feel like good. I've tried to play around with the tree a little bit on the alpha, and it was kind of difficult to get all the way to Nature's Vigil and all the way to Oak Skin. It was possible, at least as balance, but with Resto, I think your tree is a bit more constrained because you have to also pick up Wild Growth and Regrowth or Rejuve at some points, right?
Yeah, it depends a little bit. Like in Mythic Plus especially, the tree can be very restrained because you have a much bigger requirement to grab all the different cat DPS talents.
Yes. And you also want to get Skull Bash, maybe.
Yeah, and you probably want to get Skull Bash if you can, if it's not buried 4 layers deep. That location looks fine.
Lore of the Grove, which is, just more passive damage, Moonfire and Sunfire damage increased, Rejuvenation and Wild Growth healing increased.
Honestly, I'm just glad that Rejuve is on it, since with a lot of the hero talents, like there's quite a lot of generic power increases, and for
Yeah.
some reason Rejuve just isn't on many of them. Like they're all focused on like regrowth instead.
Ursoc's spirit, stamina, and bear form increased by 10%. While, I think it's a bit hard to use super effectively, it's at actually a part of the tree that's pretty easy to get to. It's a node that's completely branched off of thick hide. So these are like two nodes that you really want to get. And so, being able to press bear form, you're never going to die, especially with 10% bonus stamina. And we still have Ursine Vigor.
Honestly, one of the best changes that I'm immediately seeing is that you don't need to take the armor talent to reach the kite anymore. Like you always had to
Oh,
take
yeah.
Iron Fur on the way, and like there's just no like practical way to use Iron Fur as like a non-bear druid. And so now you've at least got an option to path around it, especially in Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
I think they definitely want Resto Druid to be playing not a hybrid role, but they probably want you to be using cat abilities more actively in raid. I just don't think they've ever managed to get a design where you can do that.
Did that feel
well.
okay?
I think it doesn't feel okay right now, but I don't see why it couldn't, if that makes sense. Like there's downtime in raid, there's time where you don't have to be constantly healing. They haven't nailed it so far, but they're trying again now, so we'll see.
Okay.
It will be tested.
All right. What do you want to do next? Holy Paladin or Preservation Evoker?
Let's do Preservation.
All right, dude. I actually heard, funnily enough, every single time you press Deep Breath on the alpha, it would just crash your game immediately.
That's funny because when Dragonflight Alpha came out, that's what happened with Saw. Like you got in, you wanted to test Saw right away, and I even got Myth to try it for me, and I said, press Saw. It immediately bricked his character. He couldn't log into it again.
I don't think it was bricking characters, but it would immediately DC them. Okay,
Yeah.
so Prez Evoker actually got, dude. I feel like a lot of the healers just got a ton of changes. Mistweaver Monk also. We're gonna have June on in a little bit with you. Oh my god, Mistweaver got so much. So Prez Evoker, new buttons. Titan's Gift, Essence Burst. Now will increase the effectiveness of your next Essence ability by 25%. And Life Spark, Reversion Healing has a chance to cause your next Living Flame cast instantly and deal 50% increased healing or damage. It will stack up to 2 charges. They also changed some of the nodes around for the preservation tree pretty heavily. What was your first reaction with this?
Prez has been looking for a bit of a tree revamp for a long time because it feels ancient right now. Like it feels like it was one of the original trees and basically didn't get changed since. So it's nice that they've finally added some more choice there. They've also this middle stem here used to be all of the damage nodes, which meant if you wanted to path through the middle of the tree, you had to invest 4 points in damage, which is okay, but like in raid especially, you often couldn't afford the points.
But now they've been where the damage nodes moved now.
Now the damage nodes are moved down to the bottom, so you'll see.
Oh, I see it. They're right
like,
here.
that little middle part with Life Spark. Yeah, so it's easier. Yeah. It's easier to choose to go into them, and you're getting more value per point because Life Giver's Flame was never very good. So now it's just a 1-point node, which is way more appropriate. And the big damage nodes will cost you 3 in the middle of the tree. You're still gonna have to give something up if you want them.
Yeah,
but it's like a better trade, Like if we're on Tendril and we're just missing the damage check by a little bit, I could see myself pathing into them now. Whereas before, there was just no option. Like you'd be better off wearing DPS trinkets and stuff like that.
I mean, that's one of the big things too that I saw with the decent amount of the tree changes is that it was just for more often than not for specs that needed them, and it was just a bunch of QOL stuff that you were kind of talking about, allowing you to have easier to access points. As for move talents or any of the talent tuning, is there anything that you didn't hit that you think that is important to cover?
So Grace Period moving to its own capstone is very interesting. That's a very good talent right now. You can still get everything. I kind of built my own tree a little bit. You can still get everything that you want to in tier 3 that you have now.
Okay.
So there's no way you can lose anything, but you gain more options. Like you can actually take Stasis, Cycle of Life, and Dreamflight now. So usually you can only take 2 of those 3 capstones. Now if you want all 3, you can take all 3. A lot of the nodes that shuffled around are kind of neutral. I think they're all improvements overall, but they're not like of huge impact. And Mythic Plus, you can kind of just ditch this lower third of the tree now and just invest in damage.
Okay.
And also stuff like the new talents, Life Spark is very popular. Like that's our current, well, not our current, that's our season 4 and our season 1 tier set. So you know it's popular since it got voted back in.
It
And they're
definitely means
keeping
that it's popular for sure.
yeah, I'm not saying it's necessarily good, but it's popular.
Okay, fair enough.
And they kept the season 4 version, which is good, right? So they kept the buffed season 4 version, which is good because the season 1 version, it felt good to use, but it didn't really do anything. And we're talking about a 3rd tier node here, so like it has to do something. So I'm glad they kept the buffed version.
Yeah, I mean, well, there are some classes that you say it has to do something. That's not always true.
Oh no.
All right.
The best part about Lifespark in particular is in Mythic Plus it gives us very good spot healing. That was kind of a problem for the class.
Okay.
Like if you wanted to spot heal, you'd usually echo reversion, which is okay, but not very good. Whereas now you can just drop a fat Lifespark on them, and they're giga healed. They're back at full health.
Are you on the cope train for Evoker being sick in season 4?
No.
Okay. You're not on that.
I wasn't on the hype train, but then last night they shot half the healers, so now the hype is building. I'm getting there.
All right, the train is moving.
Yeah, like in Raid, the 2 specs that were clearly a lot better than Preservation were Mistweaver and Disc Priest, right? And Mistweaver got hit a lot, and Disc Priest got hit a little. And like Preservation wasn't that far behind them, so I think that it's a good time to play Preservation, but I'm not expecting it to be Mythic Plus meta necessarily, since
Sure.
I think you can still get more out of a Disc Priest, a Mistweaver, or a Druid.
Makes sense. All right, moving on to Holy Paladin. Dude, look at what they did to your boy. Light of the Martyr's gone.
Light of the Martyr is interesting, that's for sure.
It's passive now. What have they done to it?
It's a passive now, but so the problem is Light of the Martyr always competed, right? Like you already have a lot of single target healing buttons. In fact, Paladin is mostly single target healing buttons, and so when you picked Light of the Martyr, you just had another one, and if it was tuned well, that's good. You would press it, and you'd press less other buttons, and if it wasn't tuned well, like most of this expansion, you just never touch it.
Yeah.
Now that it's passive, you can use it a bit more. Have you got the description up, or should I read it out?
I have it up right now.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So keeping yourself above 80% health, that's good. It's kept a lot of the flavor of the old one, where Leech was always very high value since you had a dot on you for half your health at all times. The heal absorb isn't necessarily a problem. So I need to get onto Alpha and test this, hopefully later today, but I didn't quite understand that. So the 30% absorb prevents Beacon of Light from healing you. I wasn't sure if it was a 30% absorb that prevented all healing and stopped Beacon of Light working on you, or if it only affected Beacon of Light healing. I assume it's the former, and they've added the latter just to make sure that you don't just beacon yourself.
So was this similar to like the legendary shoulders that HPAL had in Legion?
Oh goodness me, I don't know if my memory stretches back that far.
All right, never mind. It was something where it's like above 80% health, and they had some like weird heal loop with Leech.
Yeah, that might be it. I think the node that follows on from it, where it kind of panic heals you when you drop below 70% health. It reads, the light urgently heals you. I think that's a cool idea, but like 70% is not the health threshold where you need the light urgently heal you, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're good until like 30, 40 probably. Like every mechanic in Mythic knocks you below 70% health.
I mean, HPAL 2 is just so tanky in general.
Exactly,
so
right?
I don't need urgent healing on an HPAL at 70%.
Yeah, and I assume it doesn't necessarily specify it, but I assume it removes your stacks when it urgently heals you, since otherwise it's like just urgently healing you at all times. So you probably don't want it to proc all the time. So hopefully they'll lower that a little bit. I don't know what the thinking is with 70%. Maybe it'll make more sense when I play it a little bit. But the initial impression is that that could maybe change. I think 80% is fine for the healing increase. 20% is not anything to write home about. Like Holy Shock is good, but like if I'm investing 2 talent points into a 20% increase that stacks a little bit more with the follow-up node, I'm probably expecting a little more bang than that. We do have a lot of Holy Shock talents in Herald of the Sun. So we're probably building up to this really good Holy Shock gameplay, which is what Paladin actually wants. And so I think it'll be a very good node, particularly with Herald of the Sun, which everyone is going to play since Lightsmith still doesn't look very good.
So how you feel about Blessing of Summer being reworked, where now it's more similar to like a Nature's Vigil Vamp Embrace style effect, where 20% of all the healing converted into damage?
Yeah, they really like these lately, don't they? Like I feel like almost every spec now has your damage turns into healing or your healing turns into damage.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rework is good. I think that this is a lot more interesting, and there's probably a lot more you can do with it. I assume that it's still a blessing you put on someone else, so you could put it on your. There's a lot of options here, right? Especially if it works on raw healing, which these effects sometimes do, like Nature's Vigil.
I didn't really consider it like that. Wow.
Yeah, so Nature's Vigil works that way. Hypothetically, you could put it on one of your ramp healers, like at the peak of their ramp, and you could get some really good damage from that.
Heal Morchi and do infinite dam.
Yeah. Sometimes usually they normalize those. Sometimes they forget. We'll see if they forget. The beacon nerfs quite annoying, I'd say. Like they've hit beacon a few times now, and I always liked it. It's like
Virtue. You like Virtue?
Holy Paladin ability, like since when was it added? Wrath of the Lich King, I think. It's been like a core identity almost to the class, and they hit it almost every patch for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where it's now at 15%. It's still going to have the follow-up node, so you're going to get a bit more than 15%. But yeah, it's fallen a long way from an expansion or two ago.
All right, let's bring June in and let's talk some Mistweaver with both you guys.
All right.
Hello, June. Welcome.
Well,
dude, have you gotten a chance to look at these monk changes, June?
I've been here for the past 25 minutes just poring over them. This is
what in the world?
Third.
Dude, there's so many. What are huh?
The patch gone by where Mistweaver hasn't got a full page of changes for some reason, despite being the best healer in the game for a few patches.
Did you see Sinta's tweet where he was like calculating like how many changes classes got? Mistweaver just had a ton the entire expansion.
Mistweaver was at 155 changes, and I think the only two specializations that got more than them were given like the dev tag of like full reworks during a patch.
Yes.
Mistweaver has not gotten that tag applied to them. It's just been small incremental changes over the entirety of Dragonflight.
How do we get that div like on some other specs? Because they're doing some work.
Dude, somebody logged in and it was like, man, this Mistweaver spec owns. I don't know why anybody hasn't fixed this thing, and they just went to work on it the entire expansion. Okay, do you want to go and do Mistweaver first, or do you guys want to start with Monk? I don't really care either way.
The monk tree itself is like entirely reworked. And so a lot of stuff in here is like really interesting.
Generous Pour is gone, right?
Yeah, I think Generous Pour and Close to Heart, which was right before. Let me grab the right thing.
Yeah. So they were
Close to Heart, like the short range auras. Close to Heart increasing allies' healing taken, and Generous Pour reducing people's area of effect damage taken. Those look completely removed from the class tree. It's just Windwalking that's left in its place.
People did love to call those raid buffs, but man, those things were really, really strong in some, especially whenever your melee was like stacked up. Just being able to get increased healing is crazy.
Yeah. Like there was, I think very early expansion, there was some tech to roll from the melee clump to the ranged clump because the buffs last like 10 seconds after you leave range.
Okay.
Just to make sure everybody like had it during like an incoming ability. It was very small tech. It was just so strong.
It's one of those like hidden power buffs where because it doesn't appear on meters, it's not immediately evident how strong it is, and then you do a bit of math on it, and it's actually just ridiculous.
I mean, it both of those being removed, that's unfortunate, I guess. But I mean, Monk got so much more. Fort Brew is now, I believe, a real cooldown, which, thank God. Fort Brew was terrible. Now, like 2 minutes, right? And it's got, I'll say this has like dampen mixed in with it or something weird.
Dampen's been moved Brewmaster only.
Yeah, so but like Fort Brew is now has some like damage reduction attached to it, doesn't it?
It's had it attached to it in the current node. It has.
Oh, I see.
Iron Shell is basically for Brewmasters because they can reduce the 6-minute version of it. But Expeditious is what brings it to a 4-minute cooldown, unless they change something baseline.
I think it's baseline.
Wait.
I think it's baseline shorter now too.
Okay,
I think
I
it's
just
now
saw that.
I think it's now a 2-minute CD with the Expeditious.
Okay.
So that'll be sick. On top of that, there was something else that I noticed that was kind of weird. They also have a Wernstone style Transcendence. Is that useful? Either of you guys like? Where's the name of this? Transcendence now tethers your spirit to an ally for 1 hour. Use Transcendence to transfer to teleport to your ally's location. Is this useful?
It'll have some places. I think.
I think you'll find a use for it a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it's like way at the bottom, like as a new capstone.
Was it actually a capstone? Oh my god!
It's kind of like,
it is.
Yeah.
sitting Transcendence is like a set place can be difficult on some fights, right? Because like Swirly can spawn or it can become a bad place quickly, whereas this seems a lot more flexible. What do you think, June?
Yeah, this for sure is a lot more flexible because like if you know that like someone in melee is safe, you can just like have it on them, and if you like need to run a mechanic out, you can just port back into melee, no problem. I think it's on a choice node with Escape from Reality.
What does Escape from Reality do?
Escape from Reality lets you place your spirit and you can transfer to it, and for the next 10 seconds, you can swap with it again.
Oh, that's what people were using in the MDI to like pull through gates and stuff like that. I remember now. Okay,
Yeah,
that's what that is.
There's also like an added benefit right now where like while you have this 10-second buff where you can swap places back with it, Vivify will increase its healing specifically on you, not on renewing missed targets, and it also refunds it 50% of its cost on you. So most of the tech right now with Escape from Reality is in the mana reduction.
Sounds like you have more mobility than me as Preservation now, but still have a 40-yard range. So what's with that?
All right. Hey,
if you want to talk mobility, let's talk. Let's see. There's Bounding Agility, Roll and Chi Torpedo, travel a small distance further.
Somehow got more. I don't know how this happened.
Jade Walk, which just gives us more movement speed out of combat. What else is there?
Quick-footed. The duration of snare effects on you is reduced. We needed that.
There's Swift Art, which removes a snare effect whenever you roll. Celestial Determination. While Celestial's active, you cannot be slowed below 90% move speed. Like, it's absurd. Then there's Healing Winds with Transcendence that just heals you whenever you use it.
Is this going to be permanently a melee spec? I feel like there's no more like ranged Mistweaver, right? They've kind of gotten rid of that.
So we can get more into this in the Mistweaver talent spec, but currently we can stand at range because we're not using Rising Mist and like the super high-end mythic stuff.
Let's go to
which means that we basically don't need to be casting Rising Sun Kick on cooldown. But I think that's going to be changing because of Crane Style, right? Like one of the very first talent changes, they just gave Rising Sun Kick permanent invoke Chi-Ji functionality.
Oh my god, wait, this is actually... Okay, so basically, so it says Rising Sun Kick now kicks up a Gust of Mist to heal 2 allies within 40 yards. Spinning Crane Kick and Blackout Kick now have a chance to kick up a Gust of Mist to heal 1 ally within 40 yards. Wow, that's going to be really good in Mythic Plus too, with Spinning Crane Kick and Blackout Kick also being part of it.
As well as combining that with like Ancient Concordance, where you have a bunch of Blackout Kick events. Yeah. Because how it usually works is that it like because Teachings of the Monastery just creates a bunch of Blackout Kick events. If there's no like internal cooldown to this ability, then it can get a little insane.
I think Mistweavers definitely needed their time in the sun. They've kind of sucked for a hot minute. I think it's sick that Mistweaver's looking good. Okay, so Zen Pulse, renewing Mist heal over time effect now has a chance to cast to cause your next Vivify to also trigger Zen Pulse. This replaces Zen Pulse. Is that like a big deal that it's replacing like a pressable button?
Yeah. So Zen Pulse, as it counts the amount of enemies around your target. and then deals a set amount of healing and damage based on that number of targets. So
Okay.
I think right now it's like 280% spell power per target. Let me double check this actually before I start speaking out of my mouth. 165.
Okay.
So for each target within range of the ally you're casting this on, it deals damage to all enemies. And then for each enemy damaged by this, it heals them for 166 spell power per enemy. So in like Mythic Plus, when you have like 5 enemies, you get just a ton of healing on your target. And then
so like 150k.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Right now
with
right now numbers. What in the world? That's a lot.
Yeah, and this is especially useful in Mythic Plus because you also have Echoing Reverberation, which I think is removed. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's been removed.
But yeah, Zen Pulse triggers a second time at 80% effectiveness if your target has Enveloping Mist on them. But moving it to this passive means that like it's I really want to see what it's like because causes your next Vivify to also trigger a Zen Pulse. This wording is really interesting because Uplifted Spirits also has wording like this, where Vivify critical hits reduce the cooldown. And Invigorating Mists, which is our Vivify Cleave, also contribute to this cooldown reduction. And so I'm really interested to see if Invigorating Mists can trigger Zen Pulse on allies.
How you feeling?
Because the wording is there for that functionality.
How you feeling about mana? They kind of changed where TFT, Thunder Focus T and Mana T were. Is that going to change anything or not really?
That doesn't really change anything because Enveloping Mist and in the new tree, TFT, Renewing Mist, and Mana T, you have to pick. Like those 4 talents are ones that you cannot not
It's not
pick.
possible? Okay.
Right. You cannot advance to the second tier without those 4. Although the addition of Crane Style might change that, but like you're still grabbing all 4 of those.
Yeah, because you need them.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, apparently the calcs are up too.
How do you feel about Essence Font's removal, June?
I'm so happy. I am so happy that fucking spell is gone.
Why? Do you not like Essence Font?
Finally ends.
Why is this bad?
So Essence Font is 7.2% mana, which is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a relatively short cooldown, but it's a spell that we kind of don't want to be casting on cooldown because of that mana cost. It was introduced in Legion as a split from Uplift when it got changed to Vivify and Essence Font, but the heal over time effect is just there for secondary triggers for our mastery to heal people. And it kind of can't be good. Like, all the effects that it has for it means that the spell itself cannot be good, because everything triggered to it can swing it into pushing a build that is just not good for like the health of the spec at all.
It also kind of got in the way a lot, didn't it? Like, if it was too good, then Mistweaver was generally not having a very good tier in terms of playstyle, and it felt like they couldn't design the spec well when it existed. So they even said, like in season 3, right, we kind of don't want you to be pressing the spell.
Yeah,
It was
also really weird functionality because like it would heal with 6 bolts of the 18, and for targeting purposes, if there were no valid targets in range. In that set of 6, like say it heals 4 people, and those are the only 4 people in range. Okay. When it goes to try and heal with that 5th bolt, and it finds no valid targets, because in the past 6 bolts, everyone in range has been healed. So it does not fire that 5th bolt. And then it does not fire that 6th bolt until it gets to that 7th bolt, and then it can heal that first target again. It's really weird, and there's so many limitations on it that like just kind of don't work for it. And having it be like a 2 GCD channel just to get full effectiveness is it's just a messy spell.
Sometimes it's good when they just cut a spell entirely instead of trying to like rework it for the 5th time. Just like cut it and build the spec without it.
Dude, I don't know what it is, but something about like Essence Font always felt like Emerald Communion. Both of those kind of always felt the same. How it was just like your healer starts pulsing, healing at you, and it's just like, wow, my health bar is going up. But maybe it's just felt terrible to play.
Oh yeah,
I think Emerald Communion, like there's a lot more interaction and there's a lot more like advanced little tricks you can do with it, whereas Essence Font kind of felt like a nooby trap some of the time. Only during some tiers. During other tiers it was very good, but
like in Mythic Plus, it's a spell that you just do not cast at all.
Okay.
It is an absolute trap of a spell.
So is this going to still be? Is Mistweaver still just going to be like a throughput healing monster? You know, you have Yulon and just a lot of the other. Okay.
They're adding part of our current season and next season's tier bonus.
Okay.
Just to the tree through Chi Harmony.
Okay, we're renewing Mist applies Chi Harmony to its initial target, increasing their healing taken from you by 50% for 8 seconds.
Yeah. They've also removed Clouded Focus by the looks of things.
Yes, it's gone.
Okay, that really opened up some like that's really what enabled just pure caster focus gameplay.
I'm kind of surprised they kept Chi Harmony around, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really interesting, especially because like you don't have the 4-set bonus where it pools all healing, including overhealing, and then spreads it to all renewing Mist targets.
It's good without that.
Oh yeah, like what is it? It's in Throne of Thunder right now. The bubble shields that mobs put on you. This is going to be really good tech for that. But I kind of don't see it being run in raids unless you have something similar like absorb shields on people.
Or triads.
Oh, more triads. Can't get enough of them.
Oh, dude, those mobs are so troll. I think every healer hates them.
How is it?
Sometimes you're sure, like, okay, community was pretty negative on this idea, and you're like, all right, sure, Blizzard heard that, and then they clearly didn't get it since they do the same thing the next tier. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see if the ads experiment was a success or a failure, since it was included quite a few times in a Madrasal.
Okay, Voulk, I know you have to go at 45. Thank you so much for joining. Me and June now have to cover Master of Harmony. June and I have some work to do. Yeah, thank you so much, man.
Take care, Voulk.
I'll see you later for some dungeons, maybe.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh my gosh. Dude, the dungeons are sick.
Dungeons are good? All right, can't wait.
They were cool. They were normal dungeons, but like they were so cool.
Yeah. All right, see ya.
Later, Emmy. All right, Master of Harmony. What is this? This is Brew and Mistweaver, right?
Yeah, this is Brewmaster Mistweaver. I haven't taken as long a look of this as I have of talent tree changes, but from what I see, this is some good stuff. Conduit still has it beat just purely from a flavor perspective, because summoning Celestials is absolutely my favorite thing.
So right off the rip, basically you're going to store Vitality from 10% of your damage dealt and 20% of your healing, and then for 10 seconds after casting Thunder Focus Tea, your spells and abilities will drop on the stored Vitality, dealing 25% additional healing over 8 seconds. So
I'm really interested about that, because I don't know if it's pulling from the Vitality pool that it's creating.
Is it also going to do AoE? Is it taking the damage too? Like, what is it? What exactly is it going to do?
It's just saying damage dealt. So I think like Touch of Death will feed into it. I think Spinning Crane Kick, all targets hit will feed into it.
Interesting.
There's a lot that can.
Resonance is whenever aspect of the Harmony heals has a chance to spread to a nearby ally. When you directly heal an affected target, has a chance to intensify. So it's going to be like what, like a hot on the player?
Yeah, it'll. I think it's just like a healing amplifier on targets. Okay. I'm gonna have to like actually get it in my hands to like test with, to like actually get an idea of how it functions. But like the rest of this tree is really interesting.
Okay, what are some of the most important nodes that you think are the most interesting in this tree?
Endless Draught is dead middle. It gives Thunder Focus Tea an additional charge.
Okay, wait a second. Hold on. Dude, okay. Yeah, that's fine. That sounds good.
Yeah, especially because I think we still have Secret Infusion in the Mistweaver tree, which just gives us 15% of a specific stat for 8 seconds, I think.
Let me look. Yeah, it looks like
10
it's still
seconds,
there.
sorry.
Yeah, it looks like a Secret Infusion is actually still there.
So we have that. We have another way to trigger the amplifying bonus of Aspect of Harmony because of that. There was a change to Chi Wave that made it a passive ability, so Manifestation, just increasing that is just, it's good.
Where is that? Chi Burst and Chi Wave deal 100% additional damage at healing. This. Where was that about Chi Wave?
Oh, that's in the class tree.
Oh, it's in the class tree. Okay. That makes sense.
Going back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Chi Wave was changed. I think it's at the bottom. Where did that change? It's at the bottom of the new abilities, where it's just like every 15 seconds, your next Rising Sun Kick or Vivify just sends a Chi Wave instead of it being an active ability you have to press.
What is this? You can pressing Fortified Brew grants 20% stagger.
Okay.
What is this? What is this talent?
Mistweaver just has stagger now with Fort Brew. And Fort Brew is like Symbol of Hope from Holy Priests only affects Fortifying Brew for monks. It doesn't affect Diffuse or Dampen Harm. And with it being like, what would you say, like a 2-minute cooldown now?
It's 2 minutes, yeah.
2 minute Symbol of Hope, reducing it to 1 minute. 20% stagger on top of a 20% DR and 20% healing or health increase. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, this sounds really good. I don't know. Dude, Mistweaver, for those who don't really know, it was already just the most unkillable healer by a lot. They just had so many buttons to be able to make sure that they were alive. Also,
we
like
are losing
Dampen
Dampen Harm. We are losing Dampen Harm, so there's that concession, I guess.
You still have, like, bounce back and a bunch of other crap, is how I would describe it, with a bunch of other very interesting abilities.
Honestly, change to Expel Harm that happened recently has been just, it's so good. And also, because Mana Tea moved to where Thunder Focus Tea was, Healing Elixir has moved to its old spot, which is on the way to Invigorating Mists, which is our only raid heal. So Healing Elixir is now a lock-in talent, 100% of the time, no matter the content you're doing. Which is just a 20% heal every 30 seconds.
I mean, dude, Expel Harm, the moment that I didn't realize how good it was until you get brambled by the Triad boss in Wakerest Manor, and they just top themselves, and I go, how did you do that? They go, yeah, I pressed Expel Harm. It's like, what? Doesn't make any sense.
Also, Thunder Focus Tea has an Expel Harm portion, where if you use Thunder Focus Tea on Expel Harm, it transfers more of the damage that it heals to you, and it also gives you an Absorb Shield for 16% of your health. Which is just more unkillability.
So, okay, what was the other Mistweaver monk hero talent? Do we have the second one, or do we only have one?
Conduit of the Celestials. Yeah, it came out a few weeks ago.
I hated that one. I thought that one was terrible.
It's so good though.
Is it actually OP?
It's genuinely, like, everything is so synergistic with each other. It's so good. There's cooldown reduction for Renewing Mist, Rising Sun Kick, Thunder Focus Tea, which kinda isn't relevant to Master of Harmony discussion.
Okay.
And Life Cocoon in Conduit of the Celestials. You can summon all 4 Celestials at once. Chi-Ji's old functionality from Legion, where he just, like, rushed to people to heal them, is back.
Dude, I think it's insane how Mistweaver had such a negative community perception now, and now Mistweaver is by far my favorite healer to play with in Mythic Plus. This thing is insane.
We are so back.
This thing is insane. Life Cocoon on a 1 minute cooldown or a minute 10 or whatever it is also just gross.
I think it's like a minute 15, but every minute 4 seconds you can reduce it by 8 seconds from Conduit of the Celestials.
Oh, we did that. That definitely sounds right. All right, cool. Anything else you want to cover with Mistweaver, you think? You think we hit all the stuff we wanted to hit? There
is so much I want to talk about, but I need to, like, actually get this in, like, a talent calculator or something, because
there is a talent calc. I heard that the talent calcs are up.
Okay.
Allegedly. Somebody said that in chat. I hadn't checked. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. Beta. You have to refresh Wowhead to get to the beta, which is the alpha.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Oh, I see it now.
Yeah.
Epic.
Okay, yeah, Escape from Reality and Linked Spirits is the choice node at the bottom there.
Yeah, I see it right here, and it was in the middle or whatever. Yeah, perfect.
There's Clash. There's just Clash.
I saw that.
At the bottom of the Clash tree.
Is that useful? Clash?
I think, like, it's very specific use case, I guess, for us, because, like, I guess all you would do is, like, use I think it's more PvP oriented for us, especially.
Cool. All right, June, thank you so much. Where can people find you? Just in the class Discord?
Yeah, class Discord. I'm moderator in Peak of Serenity. You can find me on Twitter, Juniper_MW.
Alright.
Pretty much just those two places. I don't really stream.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, June. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, take care.
Yeah, I got to talk to Guilty now. Oh,
Good luck.
yeah. Hey, what's up, Guilty?
No, I've been kidnapped.
Welcome, dude. Are we back or what?
Have you had much of a chance to look at the class tree yet? I don't think this is better.
All right, I'm not gonna complain. I don't want to doom on this stream, but I said the same thing. Okay, I played around with it a bit. I was able to get Oak Skin, Vigil, Innervate, and all of my defensive. I was able to get all of the defensive stuff that I needed, but I was not able to still then get Dispel or Decurse if I needed it. For those who don't know, I'm joined by Guilty. He plays Feral Druid, Wowhead, Guide Rider. Yeah,
Plays a lot of
all
Feral
stuff.
Druid.
And so basically, loves Feral Druid. And so basically, Guilty and I are going to talk about the Druid tree, and then he's going to talk about the Feral tree to me, and I'm going to talk about the Balance tree to him, and he's going to antagonize me as I talk about the Balance tree. That's basically what we're going for here.
Probably,
But yes, having taken a look at this Druid tree, are you able to get to all the stuff you need? I know that I barely was, but I was never going to be able to get Hibernate or Decurse.
So I've been playing around in Paint, which is kind of curse. So I'm currently on the class tree, I think, currently on the class tree, I think like there's 29 mandatory talents. You've got 31 points. So you've got like 2 flex points for random stuff.
Okay.
Having played around this, I think there's like 27, and obviously this is from the point of view of Feral, right? I think there's 27 mandatory points, but now 6 of those points are just like still dead, whereas before it was 3 of the points. So for Feral, it used to be Starfire, Sunfire, and Moonkin form. It were just points we spent and we didn't really care about. And now you have to add in Nurturing Instincts. These points down here, the Shred and Moonfire points, those are cursed.
The Wowhead calc for Druid is just cursed right now. So yeah, we're just gonna. I'm
Yeah,
just
it
gonna look
looks
at the
really
screenshots.
interesting. Yeah.
Broken right now.
But these points down at the bottom, these 2 pointers that lock off Innovate, Fluid Form. Fluid Form, by the way, this talent looks
That
fucking
talent
sick.
is insane. For everybody that's not Moonkin, that talent is like crazy.
Yeah, really cool talent. Sick. But looking at Innovate, Nature's Vigil behind Moonfire, damage
Yeah.
increase is...
Well, okay. So does
Sus?
Sparrow still have LI?
Feral still has LI, but it's inconsistent whether or not Moonfire increase Lunar Inspiration because of the different spell ID.
I see. I didn't really know that.
So-
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a bit inconsistent. And same for Moonkin, locking Well-Honed Instincts and Raw behind a Shred increase.
It's fine, I guess. I saw it. I was like, wow. I think it's nearly impossible to get to Incap Roar. By the way, as balanced now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so hard.
Yeah, it's so split up.
Okay, so for
You have
Oakskin,
to...
does this fix
drop
all the
other stuff.
issues that we had? Oakskin?
I don't think it does, because I think the problems Feral had with, or Druid had with survivability were more passive survivability. And
Yeah,
maybe that's not the case of balance. Like, your active defensives are much worse than Feral's. But the problem with survivability that we always had was just that we have strong defensives, but we're
Yeah.
not very passively tanky.
I
So if you don't press a button,
there's
you
no
just
passive
die.
healing, I think, which is still, I think, a problem.
Yeah, you just have like 300k health less than the Hunter or the Warrior or the Death Knight or the Paladin.
I will say, I don't think it's possible to actually die if you're pressing bear form correctly anymore. There's no more of this. I'm getting killed
So
while pressing bear form.
Yeah, stamina and bear form is increased by 10% plus Oakskin. Yes, if you're pressing bear form,
And
you're
you still
probably
have
fucking immortal.
you still have Ursine too. Like there's just no way.
Yeah. Well, if you can have the points for it.
The
I guess
problem
at
is
one
like
point now
the
it
problem
looks-
is pressing
that's
it is
nice.
just cringe, but you know it is what it is.
Yeah,
Okay, question.
I mean,
Is it
Go on.
bad that
Hit me.
Feral doesn't have Moonkin form anymore?
it's kind. So I don't think I'd ever say bad, because I've been complaining about having to talent Moonkin form. So that would be a bit hypocritical. But I am gonna miss when I get knocked on a boss and I can't Moonkin jump back onto a platform. There is 100% chance that some mechanic will kill me where I could have Moonkin formed it to survive. So
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I will say that the times that you had to Moonkin weave is not great.
Thankfully, we haven't had to do that this expansion, but yes, that never coming back is pretty hype.
All right, any other talents you want to shout out here?
I mean, fluid form is so fucking cool. I'm dead chuffed with that, especially with Druid of the Claw promoting like a degree of bear weaving. Hopefully that they change it so it's a little bit more accessible, because at the moment these 2-point talents are really rough.
Dude, I talked to JB and he was just playing Wildstalker Druid. I go, dude, does that completely passive? He goes, yeah, it sucks.
I mean, yeah. That's my position on Wildstalker as well. It's completely passive and it's just not interesting at all. But hey ho.
Okay, so what have they done with Feral?
What have they done with Feral? They've actually like made significant changes to Feral. The tree looks broadly the same, but they've changed the talents in it quite significantly. Most notably, it seems like they're trying to pull back on resources a little bit, which is good. I'm a big fan of that, as anyone who's ever listened to me talk about Feral will know. And they're also pulling a bit back on Tiger's Fury. Currently, at the moment, with like Predator, which resets Tiger's Fury when you kill a Tiger bleeds on it, and Raging Frosty, which increases the duration of Tiger's Fury every time you use a finisher. We basically have 100% uptime on Tiger's Fury. So the whole snapshotting thing that was kind of Feral's niche, that was always like the selling point, is currently on live not really there, because you have 100% uptime on Tiger's Fury.
Dude, they nerfed the duration of Berserk.
Yeah. The nerfed duration of Berserk, which is fine. It's kind of a random change, but they also increased the damage amp from it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
They added a kind of weird talent, so they removed Predator, but it now increases combo point generators' direct damage by 40% of haste, which is kind of wacky. The haste becomes versatility, I guess.
Haste is it's always been such a bad stat for Feral, right?
I mean, it hasn't been for the last while. It's been pretty acceptable. It's not like incredible, but it's also not like bad.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, so Tiger's Fury, you're now only going to have up to 50% uptime on it, and it now has a load more amps built in, because it will increase Ferocious Bite damage by additional 15%.
Load more
Tiger's Fury amps.
But
yeah. So we've got that at the moment. We've got a bit more, and they've reduced the energy from it as well. Scrolling. Silence. I can't find it. But yeah, so maximum energy is a bit longer. They're pulling back on energy. They've increased the energy costs of Primal Wrath. They've reduced the energy refund from Soul of the Forest.
I mean, what is there?
Energy regen increased by 8%.
So, but you said this is going to play a little bit different.
It'll play a little bit slower, which is good. It'll be slightly less spammy. You'll care a lot more now about your Tiger's Fury windows, because so much more of your damage will be tied to having Tiger's Fury up, as opposed to it being 100% uptime. So you'll want to get your snapshots, you'll want to dump Ferocious Bites into it. I think it's positive. I think the
Apex Predator got nerfed on the chance to make Ferocious Bite free. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, it's a really strong talent. But it's on a bit of a weird curve. So it'll be interesting to see if the curve has changed or whether it's just a baseline proc chance changed.
Gotcha.
It's a strong talent. It being nerfed reduces our pressing Ferocious Bite a little bit. They buffed Berserk Frenzy, which is kind of maybe a little bit concerning. That talent back in Vault of the Incarnates was it's really strong.
That sounds really good, huh? That doesn't it?
Yeah, back in Vault of the Incarnates, it kind of resulted in us just pressing Shred a lot. And just not really caring about blood talents or snapshots or bleeds. We just pressed Shred a lot. So that's maybe a little bit concerning, especially with the other buffs to generators, with haste and other stuff like that. But I think the changes to Feral Tree are like good. I'm
Okay.
excited for this, which is sick.
All right, let's talk about Moonkin. I know you love Moonkin talk.
Hell yeah.
Dude, Moonkin got a lot, actually.
I haven't actually read any of the Moonkin stuff.
So Pulsar's gone. Completely gone.
So no more people.
Yeah.
Moonkin's really excited about that.
No more pre-pull garbage, and now Incarnation and Celestial Alignment last 40% longer, which is hilarious. But that's the talent that's replacing it, is greater alignment.
Is that not a little bit concerning? You already have so much time in Ink.
Well, so CA is now 15-second duration baseline, and Incarn is 20-second duration baseline, and now
okay, so that's reduced as well.
Yes, but greater alignment is now the choice node that's on the orbital strike node, which I think is good. I like playing. I haven't played orbital strike ever because it's been locked behind Pulsar.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you might actually play orbital strike now.
Yeah. I will say that I feel like we have just a ton of astral power generation now, which is sick. I think that the spec feels like wild, especially oh gosh, what was that? The Elune class tree, the arcane damage class tree, not the tree one, is very good.
Elune's Chosen?
Yes, that one. Yeah. Oh my god, that one is nuts for balance.
The Fury of Elunes.
Yeah. So Fury of Elune actually does real damage. Nature's Grace, got reworked. So they tried to tackle a bunch of the stuff that was clunky about the kit, where it was like weird stuff with entering and exiting eclipses. Now, now Nature's Grace, as opposed to giving you haste after you exit your eclipse, now it's just like the 2-set from Mirjasil. Astral Communion got reworked to now increase your maximum astral power by 20. Entering eclipse grants 12 astral power, which is a lot.
Holy. Did you have any screen gutting Star Surge?
It was just a lot of AP. But yeah, then beyond that, it was like
the heavens looks cool.
I feel like just minor stuff. They reworked like some positions of some of the stuff in the tree. They added a couple of nodes where, Stellar Innervation, which was that cringe node that you would only ever play in PvP, where you would like generate bonus astral power whenever you were in Eclipse, is now just like completely gone. Now it makes Star Surge make like periodic effects do more damage to that target. Dude, somebody in chat said they gotta bring back Symbiosis. I agree.
They gotta bring back Symbiosis.
They need it. We need it
Disperse
so
again.
bad. Bring it back.
Yeah, let me have my Disperse. Let me have my Life Grip. Let me have my all that stuff, man. It was completely balanced and entirely fair. Bring it back.
That's what druids need. It's definitely something fair and balanced.
Yeah, exactly. Fair and balanced is how I would always describe balanced druid.
Yeah.
These changes. Harmony of the Heavens looks like a cool talent. Increases the damage bonus when you cast Star Surge. I feel like we've had something like that in the past.
So Moonkin's going to have a decent amount of procs now with Harmony of the Heavens and Touch of the Cosmos. And also with like the Umbral Inspiration, Umbral Embrace stuff. I feel like you're going to actually have to have like a better UI that's set up to like track all this stuff.
Oh, Dan, you must be hyped about Touch the Cosmos. That's basically the tier set, right? You've all been complaining about free Star Surge procs, free Starfall procs.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to complain about those things, right? And now I think it'll actually work pretty interesting with... So if you're not taking the cost reduction on your spenders, instead if you're taking like Starweaver or something like that, I think that'll also be more interesting.
Yeah, I think Moonkin for a long time is like laptop proc. Procs just... Having a proc in the rotation just makes it feel better.
There's more stuff that you actually have to pay attention to.
Yeah. As opposed to something like static. I think having a proc is bog.
I can't tell if Soon is dooming or not. By the way, I think he's not.
You can't tell if who is dooming?
Soon. OI.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't tell if he's dooming.
I love OI. He might be a little bit of a doomer.
that guy's a lot of a doomer. I have to talk him off the ledge regularly.
I mean, I can relate. So balance tree cool, feral tree cool, class tree.
Class tree.
Yeah.
I think the class tree's gotten I don't want to say worse. I don't think it could have gotten worse. I don't think it's fixed is the
That's
problem.
worse. I think it's gotten worse.
Oh, you think it's gotten worse?
I think it's gotten worse. I have to spend like I said, previously I spent 3 talent points that I think were completely wasted. Starfire, Sunfire, Moonkin Form, and Moonkin Form is like debatably not wasted. As I said, being able to Moonkin Form charge, kind of useful sometimes. But now I have to spend like 6. I still have to spend Starfire and Sunfire, or Rejuve and Wild Growth. I guess Rejuve and Wild Growth are slightly more useful. But I have to take 2 points in Nurturing Instinct.
Okay.
So that's 4 points now. And then I have to spend 2 points in Moonfire damage increase. So that's 6 points that don't do anything for me. In order to innovate. And if I turn up to raid without innovate, what is Torty going to say to me, man?
You're not allowed to play Innovate, it's fine. I was looking at the tree, and I was sitting there thinking, can I get away with outplaying Nature's Vigil and Mythic Plus? That was how I was kind of looking at it at some points, too, where I'm trying to figure out, like, how... Okay, dude, if I have to talent decurse, like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do.
I mean, yeah. At least, like, from a fair perspective, at least now if I have to talent decurse, it's not 3 extra points. It's, like, 1. Because that was cursed.
Yes.
I mean, to spend 3 extra points was just demonic. So at least it's only like 1 extra point now because I can path that way.
Something I think one of the largest issues with the tree in general is the fact that they keep just making these dead end nodes off to the right and left of the tree to the point where they literally have no interconnectivity with the tree. Like, man, please give us more connections on the tree. I am begging.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big problem. Is that in the current version of the tree, we have more dead end non-capstone nodes than every other class combined.
Yes, it was a ton.
Yeah. It was wild. And I don't think that's getting less. I think it's the exact same amount.
Yeah, but okay, so I will say for balance, it was like it was mostly fine without decurse. I think for Moonkin it's mostly fine without decurse. You kind of get everything you need. So once you start needing decurse or hibernate, you start to get into the same issue that you had last time where and I'm going to say it, no other class has to actually give up anything in their talent tree. I know there's supposed to be some give and take. No other class has actual give and take except for the Druid tree.
Yeah, like we're talking about how
every
strong
other class had to give up
Ursox is.
something, it's fine.
Yeah, we're talking about how strong Ursox is when you can press Bear Form. Then you're like, oh, I need Hibernate. Suddenly, I just can't take that talent. That talent doesn't exist.
Dude, it's like...
I'd love to be able to take, like, Heart of the Wild and, like, press that as an extra defensive, press it for healing, maybe, but I can't.
I play my Evoker, and you give up, Deep Breath Stun for Sleepwalk. Like, all right, I guess that's like a minor thing. I give up... Whereas, like, dude, I'm giving up Nature's Vigil to take Decurse? Like, this feels like there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
Or no, you actually give up 30 seconds off of Renewing Blaze for Sleepwalk, which is, like, fine. Like, whatever.
I don't know. I think that, like, it's cool to see them working on the tree, and there's some cool new talents in here.
Yeah.
Like a Fluid Form, I'm going to say again, sick. Forest Walk is still an awesome talent that I wish I was allowed to ever click on. I like having more stamina in Bear Form, like making Bear Form a rewarding button to press defensively. Love the idea of that, but I just don't think pathing is better in this. So
yeah.
Hopefully it gets another look at, and we go from there.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, Guilty.
Cool. Always good to talk. Peace, homie.
Always. Later, homie. Hello, Method Dan and Archie. Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Tettles.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
No. Let's not stop.
Hey, how's it going?
Dude, we got Warriors to talk about, and I have already spoke to Archie about this a little bit. So this got worse. I feel like this is the only class that I've sat here and heard they're upset with their changes, and somehow it got worse. So Arms and Fury both got decently sized changes, right?
Yeah. Warriors got a lot of changes here, and inevitably any amount of changes is going to have some amount of good and bad, right? So, for example, they removed a handful of dead... For us, these days, removing 3 talents is a lot. They removed a lot of dead talents, things we would never talent anyway, which is good, right? Like, we don't want things like Titanic Throws, literally never been talented by anybody, even Protection, through the entire expansion.
But it generates high threat.
Yeah,
Oh
sure.
yeah, I really want that as a DPS warrior. We already ripped threat anyway. Let's just make it worse.
So yeah, they made some improvements in that regard, but then they didn't do anything else. Like, they didn't add anything in its place. There's changes here, but there's not really a lot to get excited about.
Okay.
You can see further down, they make a lot of tuning changes, and in a lot of cases it's nerfs. To some degree, that's expected. A new expansion, there's a lot of power coming in through hero talents, but there's nothing to get excited about in here. If you're looking at this from players like, what am I getting going from Dragonflight to Shadowlands? Jesus. If I'm going from Dragonflight to the War Within, what am I getting is just a lot of reduction, a lot of taking away. The trees are smaller, there's less options, there's just nothing exciting other than the hero talents.
Okay, let's work on this from the ground up. I guess we'll start with the warrior class tree. What were the main problems with the warrior class tree in Dragonflight that you would have liked to see fixed with like this amount of changes? What were the main issues that you would have liked to have seen fixed?
I mean, one of the biggest issues that we had throughout all of Dragonflight is I felt like we didn't really have much in the way of options. There was a lot of throughput availability inside the class tree, which seemed a bit counterproductive to what they'd intended. When you look at, let's say, one of the ones that keeps getting thrown around was the Shaman tree, for example, like just stocked with utility, maybe 1, 2, 3 throughput talents here and there. But ours was just littered with it, and it meant that you ended up pathing in such a way that you had a bunch of talents you had to take, and then by the time you were towards the end of the tree, it was like, okay, well, I haven't had to make any choices. I wish I could take some of this reasonable utility. Maybe I can shuffle a point around here or there, at most, perhaps, but I'm going to be losing something that maybe I would rather not lose. Now it's kind of gone the inverse. Now it almost feels like we have too many points, and you end up in a situation where you're potentially looking at having to take utility that serves you no purpose in,
is that bad,
in the
though?
situation that's in front of you.
I feel like most classes
like
don't have that issue, right? Where I feel like most classes get everything they want and still have bonus points, right?
So I'll give you an example. I just linked you a talent
pulling it
build.
up.
So this is like, if you're playing a Slayer, this is just an example, a Fury Warrior Slayer, and you're pathing down the class tree on the left there. We're in the position now, as Dan says, the quote-unquote utility things, stuns, etc., heals, are a lot easier to take, but it results in a situation where you kind of have to path through ones you wouldn't normally take to get to some of those throughput talents. For example, Shockwave. It's right there in the middle of the tree now. Super accessible. But there's literally no way to get to Reinforced Plates, Armored to the Teeth, and down to Spear, Champion Spear without going through Thunderclap, which Fury won't use unless they're Mountain Thane, Shockwave, which has pretty much no use in most raiding content. Or you could go all the way around and take like Seismic Reverberation, a multi-target talent, Concussive Blows, a very niche interrupt talent. It's just, the pathing's kind of wonky. It feels like, if you compare this to the old tree, there are a lot more connections now. It's got that kind of grid pattern where you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
The way the talents are laid out, we really have to jump around with a lot of things we don't necessarily want or care about to get the things we do want. And a lot of those... Sorry, go ahead.
I guess the best way to put it is, you're right, Tettles, when you say that it's not a bad situation to be in. You know, we can now get everything we could possibly want and then some.
Forced to take Shockwave, right?
Well, yeah, but the then some is stuff that just isn't interesting or doesn't really help. So the fact we're being forced to take it when it could be something more interesting, something slightly more convenient, it doesn't feel great. Like Second Wind, for example, a lot of people would see as a fairly solid defensive option, but 9 out of 10 encounters that won't proc for any extended period of time.
Second Wind, I feel like only ever works the best whenever it's like bugged with the encounter somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is a prime example of a talent that's either useless or broken. But I don't mind taking Shockwave. I don't mind having access to it and making it very easy to get. What I fear is that with the way the pathing is set up,
Okay.
If I'm building a single target talent build right now, instead of having 31 points in the class tree, it's almost like I have like 18 or 17 for all the talents that I need to take that don't really do anything. Shockwave does nothing for me if I'm in a single target raid encounter.
Sure,
Home
of
Reflexes
course.
does nothing for me if I'm in a single target raid encounter. And we can hope that the overall is still tuned within, whatever the expected margin is, but it doesn't feel satisfying if I'm like, oh, and then I got to take this and that. I mean, what am I even getting by talenting Shockwave? I'm getting armor increased by 10%, which later down there's a talent that gives me strength equal to 10% of my armor. So
That sounds
the
pretty
returns
good.
aren't good for 2 talent points, or 3 if you include Shockwave.
Yeah. You know what you
It's
need?
just, yeah.
You need blistering scales on you.
Exactly. Precisely. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. All right. Let's talk about Arms and Fury a little bit. So
Sure.
Arms, I correct me if I'm wrong. Arms had an issue pretty much the entire expansion where it was like you're talenting either single target or AoE, and you had a problem of having both damage types, right?
For the most part, yeah. As far as season 3 is concerned specifically, it's mostly in part due to the tier set, but that's not so much of an issue anymore.
Okay.
Season
Great.
4 goes back to the season 4 goes back to the season 1 tier set, which was where the whole issue stemmed from, where you would invest so heavily into AoE because Cleave was getting buffed from the tier set, and you had a ridiculous amount of AoE, but it meant
Okay.
that the single target was suffering. Well, the byproduct of that is season 4 won't be so bad on single target, because through all of Dragonflight, we've had a little buff to overpower, a little buff to our bleeds, a little buff to mortal strike, and power's just crept up so that it's not so bad anymore. So as of right now, not that much of a problem, but it definitely was at the start of the expansion.
All right. And so what do you want to see changed from Arms, like from Dragonflight going into the War Within? Like, what would be like the big things that you would like to see changed, and were they fixed? I guess is a better question.
Biggest thing that they should look to fix, and probably kind of have fixed already, is the rage generation issue.
Okay.
We ended up in a situation where for the past 2 raids, and it's only going to get worse, as Arms, you're effectively just staring at a full rage bar for an entire raid encounter until you hit execute. And even then, it's still, you're still fighting to keep the rage away. Keep the rage away from you. That has kind of been fixed. There's been multiple sort of rage removals through the likes of Furious Blows. We've lost 5% just flat attack speed from the class tree. Frothing Berserker for the rage refund has just been straight up nerfed. There's been a few abilities that have had rage costs either lowered or just removed entirely. And all of that combined has made it so that rage actually feels like an important resource again, and potentially bringing back charge weaving, which personally, I know it's not
You
a
like charge weaving?
I love charge weaving. I'm going to be completely honest. I adore charge weaving. It was the one thing that Warrior's renowned for being a brain dead, really simple class. Charge weaving was the one thing. Charge weaving was the one thing that we had that if you were 5-head with it, it showed.
Listen,
And the
I
great
just think
players
it was
were great, and the mediocre players were down there somewhere.
I didn't think it was like bad. I think it was hilarious to watch your Arms Warrior leap out of melee range of the boss and charge the boss. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Hey, DPS is DPS, baby.
I get
It's
it.
stylish as hell. We look good doing it.
I will say, there's also, right now on the alpha, or previously on the alpha, we're testing with a very, very low gear set. So there's not a lot of stats to go around. Yeah.
I have no haste. I have no haste.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of gear to go around. Arms scales very well out of crit because it directly increases the amount of resources you get. And then haste, you spend resources fast with haste, but it still helps feed that feedback loop of anger management, Colossus Smash, Testamite, etc. So Arms actually does... scaling is kind of a dirty word, but it does kind of scale very well. At least its resources do. And also you have things like Wind Fury Totem. You have things like Wind Fury Totem that are also going to play into that. So when Danmore says that it feels a little slow right now, that may not be the case a tier or 2 tiers into the expansion, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yo, is Ravager going to be takeable now?
Yes, actually.
Yeah,
Are we back? Oh my god.
That is
We're so
probably,
back.
hero talents aside, that's probably the shining star for Arms, is that they can talent Ravager. because Slayer is all about Bladestorm, they had to give Bladestorm to Fury, but they didn't want to take away Ravager, seemingly because, some people just really hate the idea of Bladestorm, so they just gave both of them to both specs. They're on a choice node. It's kind of weird, though, because Ravager is just flat out better than Bladestorm. I mean, in every way possible, it is better.
Problem?
It's kind of. I mean, it's not a problem in the sense that, I get more damage just by taking Ravager, but it does create kind of a philosophical problem within the spec. Like, why do I have Bladestorm if I never want to take it? And now if I spec Slayer, which is the only time you would take it, because Slayer only works with Bladestorm and not Ravager.
Okay.
Now it kind of feels bad, right? Like, I have to talent into the worst thing to play this hero class.
That makes sense.
It really feels like they're trying to placate people who really do not like the idea of not hitting buttons for like 3 seconds. And I kind of feel like they need to rip that Band-Aid off and just commit fully to one or the other.
It's a very typical Blizzard move, if I can put it so boldly, to not make Bladestorm good, but to offer you more Bladestorms to make it look good. That's kind of what the Slayer tree is all about. And it's been a problem for a few expansions now, really. It's like, even in Shadowlands, when both specs had access to Bladestorm, Fury's version of Bladestorm was significantly better. It was shorter, it was more compact, you had a lot more hits in that short window, and then you could get back to doing your actual damage rotation quicker. And they just can't seem to get Bladestorm right, and it's a bit frustrating at this point, because it is a very iconic spell, so getting it right would be nice.
Bladestorm looks cool for Warriors. All right, let's jump to Fury. We got like 10 minutes until I have to tackle some priest shenanigans.
I want to stop, though.
Okay.
We didn't talk about the hero talents.
Okay, we can talk about the hero talents after.
Okay. I didn't know if you want to talk about arms, hero talents, and then Fury, or what.
We'll do that. We'll do that after. All right. So Fury now has a choice node with Ravager as well for Bladestorm, and now a new talent, Powerful Enrage, where Enrage will increase the damage of your abilities by an additional 15%. Are you just always taking this? You're always enraged, right?
Yeah. So the funny thing here is that they put it on the same node as what they're calling Frenzied Enrage now. People remember as Improved Enrage, which gives you 15% haste during Enrage.
Okay. Oh.
So you have a choice. Do you want 15% haste, or do you want 15% extra damage?
Well, that's not very close.
Exactly. That's a really awkward choice. And this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with Bladestorm versus Ravager. Like, they're just giving you a better option to... I don't know. It feels like they're placating people. There's always been a vocal minority of people who are like, Fury's too fast, I hate it, even though it's not even remotely the fastest spec in the game. And so they added an option so that you don't have to play fast, which sounds good, but if that option then outclasses the other one, like the thing that it's known for, you're kind of eroding Fury's identity of being like the fast, furious attacker, right?
Yeah, okay.
Right now, you just flat out get more damage from Powerful Enrage than you do Frenzied Enrage. It feels slower and not as fun for people who like that playstyle, but it strikes me as very odd to me when they try to add talents or options to do different things that end up detracting from one another.
Do you guys like Single-Minded Fury?
No, nobody likes Single-Minded Fury.
Kill it.
Yeah, you really? Haters?
Just let it go. Just give up.
Yeah, it should be a transmog option. That's the only way they'll ever make it good.
Ooh.
It's kind of why it was added in the first place, realistically. Like,
Single-Minded Fury is the exact thing we've been talking about. There's a very vocal minority of people who played Warrior and Vanilla and think that dual-wielding one-handers is the only thing they should ever be allowed to do, despite the fact that Fury's dual-wielded two-handers for longer now than it did one-handers. And so Blizzard said, okay, we'll add an option for that, but it just gets in the way of everything else. It
is kind of a weird thing.
Well, if you want to play one-handers, there's an extra talent tax now, so that just outright makes it worse, because not only is the talent not that great, but I also have to untalent something else.
On the plus side, it's
problems. I don't know.
On the plus side, it's now only one talent instead of two, so they've got that going for them.
Dan,
they did consolidate it.
Dan, I have a question for you. What do you think about the new node pathing for the Fury tree? Is it better?
It's barely changed. I mean, the biggest issue, I guess, is now at the bottom of the tree. It's the bottom left side of the tree is now practically entirely dead because all of the other options are just significantly better, which is such a shame because Odin's Fury cranks. It feels so satisfying to press. but every other option is just better. How are you going to not play Ravager? I mean, if you're playing Slayer Fury, for example, you have to take Bladestorm. So, well, probably have to take Bladestorm. So there's that. There's one option gone. Onslaught, even with Tenderize not offering a longer Enrage, Onslaught is still probably one of the most broken individual buttons that Warrior has in its entirety. And then the other option is just its anger management, which historically has always been really good and really fun, or Reckless Abandon, which again, it keeps coming and going in terms of how strong it is. So Odin's Fury is pretty much dead completely.
That's so weird because Odin's Fury was like so. I remember in like, was it Legion that it was super sick?
Yeah,
that one was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of lost it since then.
I mean,
so all of Dragonflight,
10 years.
All of Dragonflight, Odin's Fury has not been good. It's been pretty weak. Even now, at a time where we're forced to use it, it's another Bladestorm situation. It's now being used, one, because it's part of a tier set, and two, it only looks good because you get more of them because the tier set gives you CDR for it. So, yeah, the button itself it feels good to press. It's not actually a good spell.
Okay, what do you guys want to say about the hero talents? Certainly Archie has a lot to say about hero talents.
Mountain Thane owns.
Yeah, so Dan's really into Mountain Thane. If you want to talk about that for a minute.
Oh, I adore Mountain Thane so much. I don't know. It could be to do with the fact that it just does the least to impact your rotation. It feels like it just melds quite nicely into the way that Fury works currently. All it is just Thunderclap replaces Whirlwind, basically. And I think the idea behind it, whether it turns out this way or not, I don't know. But the idea behind it is to get back to a version of Fury from years gone by, where rather than having... Lately, we've had either an emphasis on pressing Bloodthirst a lot for your damage or pressing Raging Blow a lot to generate rage and then do damage. Mountain Thane looks like it's trying to get back to you use both because both are good. You just use the gaps in between each one to press the other, which does, as I said in a video I released earlier today, nice plug.
Good comms.
It does feel like a glorified game of Whack-A-Mole, but I kind of dig it. I really do kind of dig it. And Thunderblast is insane. Thunderblast is just a really juiced up Thunderclap, basically, which procs from the hero tree.
Dude,
and it hits so hard. It's so good.
I will say, aesthetically, this sounds the sickest for like prot. I feel like if I was like a prot warrior, I'd want to be like a Mountain Thane prot warrior.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely going to be sick for prot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. But I adore this. It's sick.
All right, what do we think about Colossus and Slayer?
So... Colossus fucks.
Colossus owns so hard.
Just straight up.
It's sick. This is it.
So when Colossus was first revealed, it was kind of blasted because it's a channel, right? It's basically Fear. Its main ability, Demolish, up there at the top, is basically Fear Laugh. It's a 2-second channel where it does some damage, and you can't move, and you're just kind of locked out, and like you're worried you're gonna die if you use it the wrong
draft of souls. We got the Draft of Souls on right now.
Yeah, Draught of Souls is the exact same way. And so it was kind of blasted for that. But, you know, I wrote in my review that it was really going to live or die. The whole tree was going to live or die based on how good Demolish feels. And I got to say, it feels phenomenal.
That's awesome.
It for one, they were not kidding about it hitting hard. You can see the tooltip there. It does a combined 778% attack power in 2 seconds, which is one of the strongest abilities in the game. Maybe individually the strongest. Yeah. It does another 518% attack power in an AoE. Just for context, that's more damage than an entire 7-second Blade Storm. That's more damage than 3 Mortal Strikes in less than 1.5 GCDs. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks that you have to stand there for 2 seconds, but it slaps. On top of that, hold on, we're not done.
Oh, okay.
On top of that, you get damage reduction during it. You get damage reduction after it. After it ends, the talent there at the bottom, you get a stacking, basically Colossus Smash after Demolish ends. Like, it is elegance in its simplicity. All it asks you to do is press Mortal Strike on cooldown and press Demolish every 35-ish seconds, and you just get a ton of damage, a ton of damage reduction, and it's amazing.
It's kind of interesting because like these abilities that require melee DPS to do a channel, they always feel like they have to be tuned so high for this to be
Yeah.
worth pressing because
Yeah.
the opportunity cost of not like meleeing too is just like pretty high.
Yeah,
Well, got it pretty
feels
right with
wrong.
Demolish.
It feels wrong. I agree. You know, I didn't even like slam casting back in vanilla, TBC, etc. But I'll tell you, Demolish feels good right now.
Okay, that's awesome. How's Slayer? Is this thing worth, or is this like a Fury thing, or is it just not very good?
It's a little
I
broken.
mean, yeah, it's odd. It's hard to get. It was hard to get a proper read on it because the talent itself, well, the hero tree itself, one hero talent was broken, and then it threw off the whole thing. Frenetic Flurry in the middle, just above the capstone. It made it so that when you pressed Bladestorm, it didn't register, it didn't show the cooldown on the ability in game, and it would start not getting the CDR from the capstone talent, and it was hard to get a proper sense of exactly how good this thing is going to be. I feel like the way that Archi's mathed it out, it probably has potential to be good, but you're going to spend a lot of time spinning. Like for a hero talent for a hero talent tree that was packaged as an execute focused one,
It's
really
Bladestorm
not.
focused?
it's Bladestorm
Yeah.
focused. Yeah, completely.
Really?
There's some execute elements, yeah, sure. And in execute specifically, it's probably going to do pretty well, but it's not really execute focused. It's just a lot of spinning. You're going to spend,
Interesting.
as Archi has so eloquently put it, you're going to spend more time channeling as Slayer than you are as Colossus with an ability that you channel.
Dude, the most interesting
You
point
stole my
for-
line.
The most interesting
Yeah,
point
you
for
got it.
Fury for me was like, I don't know if you guys remember this Star Augur Juggernaut stacks Fury
Yes.
Warrior.
Yeah.
That's dude.
Yeah.
For some reason, that season was like the peak of like Fury Warrior for me.
Yeah, I mean, Legion was the peak for warriors in a lot of way, both arms and fury. The Juggernaut was a very problematic
It was pretty toxic.
ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Avatar Sargeras is the perfect counter to your point. Like, it felt great on Star Augur when you didn't get any mechanics, and you could just tunnel execute. But then you got Avatar Sargeras, and he just turns around and fucks off into the lava for 5 seconds, 10
Yeah.
seconds, whatever, and all of your stacks drop off. So that, like, nice 60 stack Juggernaut you had goes down to 0, and suddenly you're like, why did I even bother to come to this fight?
All right.
Speaking of tunnel, I want to mention one last really quick thing. There is a hero talent called Tunnel Vision on the right hand side of the Slayer tree in the middle.
Mhm.
It's another talent that punishes you for swapping targets. Can we stop doing this? Like, it's such a
Oh, yeah,
horrible
that's so
design
troll.
choice to prevent you from swapping targets. When you've got so many raid encounters that require you to swap targets to do the fight correctly, taking a damage loss for that should never be an option. It's
You-
horrible.
You know what it reminds
had
me
it-
of?
Yeah.
It reminds me of Parry in PvE.
Yes.
Oh,
Precisely.
yeah. There's so
That's
many
its own
things
battle.
to stand in front of the boss and then you get punished for it. So I'm
Yeah.
saying in the War Within, they need to remove parry from PvE,
Yeah.
or we can just give casters parry. You know, how about like 2% of your spells just randomly get ignored?
Before we go,
we'll take
what are the thoughts on this tier set? What do we think about this tier set visually?
I would like to see that transmog
This looks
with
ridiculous.
Girthlak, the soldier from Dragon Soul that spawns tentacles, and the Terrestrian Illhoof staff, the hentai staff as it's called. That's what I want to see. I want to see you go full anime with this thing. Tentacles everywhere.
Dan, final thoughts on this Mog?
Right, it's the same as every plate set. Like, the plate sets they live or die by the shoulders and the headpiece, and this sucks. It sucks so much.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It is pretty, dude. It looks, it's like I don't even know. Got these curly Q tips on it. All right, Archie and Dan, where can people find you guys?
Well, I am mostly on Wowhead, and you all know me as Archinteros. I wrote a lot of guides, and I write a lot of news posts on the front page. You can also find me in the Warrior Discord or on Twitter, all under the same name.
Dan?
Twitch.tv/Dan_war, stream semi-regularly, more regularly as we get more content, and Twitter @method_downmore.
Yep, Method Player. Thank you guys so much for coming and talking about Warriors. I really appreciate you guys taking the time for me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Later,
Thank you,
guys.
sir. Peace.
Well, if it isn't Ellipses. What's up, buddy?
Hello,
my
friend.
Gosh, dude. Priest is back. We got talents. So basically, we're going to have Jak joining us as well. And we're going to be looking at the Priest hero talents that were announced today. What was your gut reaction on those? Were you happy?
The one thing I was kind of worried about was how they were going to do the thematic split of the fact that Shadow doesn't really share anything with any of the other priest specs in terms of how it functions, I guess you'd say. Like,
Yeah, sure.
we share like barely any spells. All the lore makes like no sense in context with the other priest specs. So it feels like Voidweaver is just like, here's a Shadow talent tree that also for some reason is for disc. It feels very like
I'm trying to move
heavily pushed towards Shadow.
Dude, this Jak guy is so annoying. Hold on. Yeah, I will say that I think, dude, they also reworked Oracle already. I was a bit surprised that they already had Oracle ready.
Well, the only real change they did to
Hello,
Oracle
Jak.
was they replaced the thing everybody hated with the single strongest healing button that they ever added to the game.
All right.
What's up?
What's
Yo.
up? So we had a lot of priest action. I'm joined by Jak and Ellipses. We have Oracle Priest, which is Disc and Holy, and then Voidweaver, which is Disc and Shadow.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to start with? You want to start with Voidweaver or Oracle? Oracle's, dude, so contentious. Oh my god.
We can start with Oracle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let,
just Oracle.
let Ellipses cool down a little bit before we get into the Voidweaver talk.
I'll take a little bit of backseat on this one. I have some thoughts, but again, I'm not a healer priest really, so I'm gonna leave that.
I think the thoughts are still valid even for people who are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
All
course.
right, so where do you want to start, Tettles?
I guess let's just start. So basically, what Oracle was initially was it was based around buffing up players, right? It was based around like power infusion and like damage. I don't even know, sharing damage, right? But they stated that they were going to rework it.
Yes.
So what they decided on is they wanted to have power infusion get replaced by these more frequent buffs that could do different things. But they've since scrapped that, and now it's going to be about personal buffs.
Is this better? Okay, so they've hit a couple healers with some weird stuff. So H-Power,
Right.
whenever we were looking at it earlier, got Blessing of Summers changed to be more like Nature's Vigil and stuff like that. I think Mistweaver has some weird damage stuff. So what's the issue with? Okay, so basically Premonition is now, I don't know, increases
Yeah,
your healing done by
I gotcha.
5% and does overhealing. Explain
Yeah,
it.
so you have 3 different buffs that you get. You have Piety, which is like a weak form of Velen's, where you get a healing increase and overhealing protection. You have Insight, which you activate, and again, for all of these, they're all off the GCD, so you can activate it and then go forth and do your thing. Insight, you activate it, and then the next 3 spellcasts have 5 seconds taken off of their cooldowns. And then you finally have Solace, which empowers your next single target ability. And then when you hit that single target heal on somebody, then that target receives 25% more healing.
So it cycles. Okay, I guess that. Okay,
And
that
it
makes
cycles
sense.
in 2 ways. So if you are going to the bottom right of the tree, there's Narrowed Visions and Fate Bender. If you take Fate Bender, then when you cast an on GCD ability, like a Smite or a Penance or something, every on GCD ability you cast will then cycle through the different abilities. You start with Piety, then go Insight, then go Solace. And so if you wanted to buff yourself during a ramp as a Disc Priest, you would have to hit a point where you sort of check yourself as you're applying atonements to everybody, catch the correct buff, activate it at that time, and then continue on with your regular
How many
rotation.
charges is this?
So that's what I'm getting to. So if you take Fate Bender, it cycles in that way, but you're encouraged to alternate between the different buffs. So one time you want to have Insight, one time you want to have Piety, etc. And then you get a 30% buff.
I see.
If you talent into Narrowed Visions, then you get 2 charges of the ability, and then it only cycles, it only goes from Piety to Insight after you activate Premonition. So once you activate Piety, for example, then the next buff you get is always going to be Insight, and you can't move it to Solace unless you use Insight.
So gut reaction, which one's better? Is this just
Maybe the double charge, because then you could use 2 at once. As like Disc, you could just take Piety and Insight at the same time, and then have
Gotcha.
a healing increase, and then get like back-to-back penances or something like that.
I kind of thought the opposite.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of like big disc ramping because you're not having as much Shadow Covenant uptime as you had to.
Yeah, I'm more concerned of just like, is Piety not just far and away the best of the three? And having 33% uptime on Piety as my premonition, as opposed to 100% uptime and effectively ignoring the talent completely.
You could, yeah. I mean, you get 10 seconds of uptime, so it would be 1 out of 6, right?
Yes, but
yeah, you had
if I played Narrowed Visions, I would get one more charge, but I would get a third of the Piety uptime because each of my one cast would be Piety, then my next would be Insight, then my next would be Solace. If I just want Piety, because reading these, it feels the most applicable one to what this priest does.
Sure.
Honestly.
The thing is, they're going to have like other balance changes going into it. Like this isn't going to be the final form that we're worrying about. So
I'm just mildly concerned at the fact that looking at them, only really one of them provides me like a serious amount of throughput. Like Tettles is pretty good for like the like angel effect, but it's not Valens. Is all I'm really saying.
It's not Valens.
It's definitely very poorly balanced at the moment. And I mean, anticipating they're going to make it worth your while to actually alternate between the spells or not. The problem is the benefits aren't so strong that they're also worth alternating your gameplay for, and use like literally just sitting there with a weak aura or a whole blown up action bar with staring at the ability while you're doing everything else to have either a really large benefit for using the right ability at the right time or a really minor ability because you messed it up. And it's a 1 minute cooldown. So much of your gameplay is getting focused into this for, it's a lot of extra cognitive load for not much extra benefit.
How good's Grand Reveal? This thing looks, for Disc, it looks terrible. It sounds like it's a bit better for Holy.
Oh, yeah. It's not that good for Disc. It's much better for Holy. But they even said in the original interview that they would independently tune that to make sure that it was equal.
They did also say there was potential that the preventative measures, prayer of mendings, and the assured safety powered shields would also count towards Grand Reveal as well.
Yeah. So they even said in the interview they didn't want Disc Priest to feel forced into taking prayer of mending. They didn't want to have like Holy feel forced into casting lots of shields and vice versa and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
I assume that is still true.
Okay, so how are we feeling about Oracle? How are we feeling about it whenever it was announced, and how are we feeling about it now? I guess what are we thinking at this point?
Bad and bad.
Okay, bad. Is it okay? Is it worse? Is it better? Or is it just bad in a different way?
It's just It's just bad in a different way.
All right, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's unfortunate.
Even if they balance it properly so that it's worth your while to alternate between abilities or play with the charge system, and then try to like stack 2 good ones together and then have 1 bad one in between or something like that. It's still more cooldown management, buff tracking in order to play either Holy or Disc. That is just not that fun to mess around. It's none of these hero talents are going to be so super strong that they should dominate your gameplay like this.
Interesting. All right, let's talk about Void Weaver. That's the name of it. Yeah, Void Weaver. How are we feeling about this? Because this one's also new, right? But you got both of your.
This just came out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, brand new.
Overall, I guess as a mainly Shadow player, I'm really happy with the thematic direction this has gone. About like, is the Void really going to make
the Void
sense for the other priest specs? And it feels like what they've lent on is the aesthetic of the Void that we were introduced to with the Sarkareth fight. It's much more cosmic horror, kind of the vast unknown compared to tentacle monsters. It's at least a little bit less sort of Lovecraftian voidy, so it does kind of pull that way nicely, at least. The actual concept of the Entropic Rift is pretty cool. I think Disc gets a better value out of it in terms of like what ability they use to proc it, because Shadow has to proc it with Void Torrent, which means it's a 45 or 30 second cooldown.
Oh, it's not Mind Blast for both? Oh my god, it's Void Torrent for Shadow.
It's Void Torrent for Shadow and Mind Blast for Disc.
I see.
Disc's Mind Blast is a 15 second hasted CD, right?
20, I think. It's like
Is it
20,
20? Okay.
25 or something like that. Actually, I could
All right,
just...
and then whereas Shadow is 45 or 30 if you talent into it. I really like what they've done with this because it feels like a lot of non-intrusive thematic window dressing. It's not overly complicated. It's not going to change your rotation in any sort of grand way. Obviously, you'll be able to pretty much effectively map out the every Untropic Rift perfectly because you get extra Devouring Plagues when you enter the Rift. 3 seconds of it is already the Void Torrent. You want to make sure you're casting Void Blast within it as much as possible. It all kind of maps out pretty neatly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty happy with this like as a whole package. The only concern I have with the tree in general is the defensive side of things are a little bit lacking. Void Leech is very concerning to read.
I'm excited about that.
Dude, that's so troll.
Can't wait to kill our boomkins by standing a little too close to them or something.
The thing I don't get about this is Shadow was already incredible at self-healing. That was like the thing the spec did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I should be taking health from the specs that are worse at self-healing for myself when I can already do it pretty well anyway.
You can take a Brace of the Shadow. You can take a Brace of Shadow instead. It's not good.
3% Magic BR, which is pretty solid, but it's also kind of bland and boring.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed compared to like a lot of the like active mitigation stuff we've seen on like other specs, like I think the main one is Chrono Warden is just incredibly defensive.
That Chrono Warden's broken. Like it's not good.
That's fair. Yeah, but Void Leech is a concern for me. I think Embrace the Shadow could either be really good or very weird and kind of bad. I expect it to be very good in raids because I expect we're going to be taking a lot of shadow damage in the Void-themed expansion.
But even just having 3% magic DR, I think is great.
Yeah, I mean, we already have that.
We already have that with spell warding. So like, it's just another little bit to add in the equation.
That magic DR is a pretty hefty amount in a raid.
I'm not really
in Mythic Plus too. It's like almost all the damage that's ever going to kill you is magic damage, right? So
exactly.
Like,
yeah. I'm not expecting the hero talent tree for Priest to give us good defensives. Defensive power creep. Yeah, defensive power creep is already way off the charts across the board.
Yeah, defensive power creep is a mage thing.
Yeah, seriously.
I think defensive creep in this game is so bad right now.
Yeah, it's 25 seconds on Mind Blast, and that activates our Rift.
Yeah,
and then
the Rift.
Void Blast is Shadow, Smite becomes Void Blast, so you can just spam that as much as you want to deploy the Rift and make it last longer.
Wait, is it? I thought no. Oh, it is Smite. Okay, never mind.
Okay, so how is this going to feel to play for Disc, Jak?
Oh, it's dope. So we lose. Okay. So our current tier set today, right now, gives us more Shadow Covenant uptime, which is your pet. So you have your pet out, you have Shadow Covenant up, which makes your Shadow abilities deal more damage, all that fun stuff. So we're not going to have as much Shadow Covenant uptime next expansion when we lose that. But with this, our Mind Blast on a 25-second cooldown deploys the Rift, our Smite makes it last longer, and then our Penance makes it bigger and makes it larger for the collapsing void at the end. And so what you end up getting is when you pair this with Shadow Covenant, when you turn your Smite into a Shadow ability, it gets amplified by Shadow Covenant. And then it's also doing more Atonement healing through the Void Infusion talent, which is right down the middle.
Yeah.
And it increases all your Atonement healing while the Rift is active. And so you have less uptime on Shadow Covenant, but stronger Shadow Covenants. And then in between Shadow Covenants, you still have some amplifier to increase your output in meaningful ways. So it's really an elegant way to make up for losing a really key tier set.
Is Depth of Shadows just sick for both specs?
It's busted right now, so it's not proccing Shadow Covenant for us just yet.
Okay.
If it did, then yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, dude, this just procking Shadow Fiends for Disc.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and Shadow sounds really nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say which of those two is the best. Sorry.
Yeah, it's bugged.
You go, Jak.
I appreciate it. The Void Wraith is also bugged, so like you can talent into Shadow Fiend you talent into Shadow Fiend by default. It's a 3-minute cooldown, but you could take another talent to make it become Mindbender, which is a 1-minute cooldown. But regardless of which you're talented into, Void Wraith always becomes a 2-minute cooldown. And so it's just like, well, why do you talent into Mindbender, right? and the Void Wraith also doesn't convert to atonement healing, which it probably should. So there's bugs that they need to figure out. I've reported a bunch of them already.
Yeah, I was going to say Void Wraith's interaction with Inescapable Torment is also questionable as well.
Was it not proccing? I thought it was for me.
Yeah, but it's like you're teleporting like a ranged caster onto the top of your mob, and it just doesn't really make much sense in terms of what the game is trying to do. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's goofy looking for sure, because it's just like your Void Pet is hanging out next to you, and it's just blasting damage, looking all sick, and then it just teleports away from you, and you never see it again.
Yeah, it just stands on top of the boss. It's so stupid.
It's like,
that
hold
is
up,
so
bro,
cool.
I'm going in.
Yeah, the only real like concern I guess I have about the Voidweaver tree is how it locks in so many talents. Because like obviously with Depths of Shadow and Void Wraith, like you want to be running the Mindbender side of the tree, and the whole thing effectively forces you to run Void Torrent, which is on the opposite side.
Ew.
So it locks you into Death Speaker because of the Shadow of Death stuff. It locks you into Mindbender because of the Depth Shadow Void Wraith stuff, and it locks you into Void Torrent because of the Entropic Rift.
Dude, Void Torrent is so far. I didn't really consider
It is,
that.
yeah. It's so far and it's so out of the way. Luckily, though, all the powerful stuff is on that side. Like, you pretty much always want Idol of Cthulhu for something.
I mean, you
so
always
you're gonna go for
Cthulhu,
that.
right? Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but it's just, like, limiting options so much for the future. And obviously needing Mindbender and needing Death Speakers off the other bits. Like, it's just very weird in that, like, they want to, like, focus on something that is so far and so out of the way as a core tenet of the spec.
Thankfully, Disc does not have those problems.
Disc does not have these problems. Disc is kind of chilling. Okay, so are you ever playing Oracle? Are you ever playing Oracle, or is it just always Voidweaver?
I mean, there's a world where they could buff it enough, but I wouldn't say I would be playing it willingly. In its current
You're
form.
not happy about it? Yeah, fair enough.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, like, even if they buff it to a point where it's going to be better, it would have to just be giving you so much reward that you would have to be, like, bodying all the other healers. Like, olden days of Disc, where Disc was, like, far and away the hardest healer, and you got massively rewarded for it or something like that.
Okay.
Like, you know, like, maybe, but I don't think they're going to do that. So otherwise, it's just a hero talent that you have to work really hard to manage compared to something else, which is just passive. And maybe at worst, you might deploy your Rift a little earlier in your ramp so that it explodes at a time that's favorable for your atonement. But that's, you know, like simple stuff, right? Not the end of the world.
Yeah, like the Oracle one is like finicky and irritating, and the world where that payoff is worthwhile is a world no other healer but Priest wants to live in, because we all remember what Velens did during Legion.
Dude, just get the Velens again. Bring it back.
Basically. I mean, I think that was probably their thought, was like, oh, people liked Felons, let's bring that back. You know.
I would say, though, as far as Oracle goes, the most thematic thing you could do as a healer with the idea of predicting the future, etc., is Velens. And obviously Velens being named after Velen, who is kind of the like poster child for the Oracle tree. It makes sense to bring that effect back, and it is the most thematically consistent thing they could do. I don't hate that they brought it back. I just hate that it's so finicky to get value out of it. And I think there is probably a healthier way of implementing that, and then giving more interesting talents down the tree as well to kind of work with. Like, a lot of those are very, very dull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the biggest bright spot for the Oracle tree right now is getting to use Powered Life at a higher health threshold.
Oh yeah,
50% is actually pretty high.
It's really high. Like, that's really, really powerful. Like, the rest just kind of feels bad.
Listen, Jack, you can reduce the cooldown of Purify by 2 seconds.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good for Farak.
By Afflicted.
I mean, with Insight as well, you can press Insight and then you can Dispel 4 times in a row.
Yeah, God, don't tell anybody that.
That sounds so cursed. Actually.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna waste my major healing CD and 5 globals to cast 1 master spell. That is now a 2-minute CD that was previously 40 seconds.
True.
That
is. My gosh, now we're cooking.
That sounds so cursed. Now that you said that, actually.
Lordy.
All right, cool. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Where can people find you guys, Jack?
At Automatic Jack, JAK. Pretty much everywhere: YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, TikTok. That's right. Hey, you want TikTok, Tettles? You follow me?
Absolutely not.
Oh my God. So messed up.
Ellipses, where can people find you?
Not really very much anywhere at all, honestly. I don't really use socials very much. You could find me in the Discord for Warcraft Priests, and obviously I'm writing the guides on Wowhead. If you have anything you want to say, then your best bet is to message me on Discord, honestly.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you guys so much for coming on and talk about hero talents.
You bet, dude. Take it easy.
Appreciate you.
Yes.
Later, guys. Yo, what's up, Azor?
Hello.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to explain to me how exactly this works. So I read through the Sentinel tree earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is this this isn't Sentinel Owl? This is Sentinel, like the ground effect bird that would swoop in the past, right?
Yes. If you're talking about Lunar Storm, it reminds us a lot of Wild Spirits, which was like one of the best things about being a hunter in Shadowlands.
Okay, okay. Trying to figure out like what exactly this ability is. Is Sentinel an ability already for MM?
We have this much maligned defensive or utility, if you can call it that, called Sentinel Owl. That you also place on the ground, and it has like the icon of an owl, kind of like this thing.
Okay,
and
this has nothing to do with that. Thank God.
Nothing at all. But the conflation is understandable.
Just making sure. Okay. So basically, how it starts is your attacks have a chance to apply Sentinel on the target, stacking up to 10 times, and while the stacks are higher than 3, it applies. Applying Sentinel has a chance to trigger an implosion, dealing damage to the target. Is this cool?
It's okay in terms of cool factor.
Okay.
I think, as with many of these things, the coolness often comes later on in the tree. This thing on its own is not all that cool, but there are some things that consuming these stacks will do for you that is pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. I guess let's start with talking about it from an MMPOV. What is exactly cool about this tree? Is it Lunar Storm?
Lunar Storm is the highlight for both MM and Survival, I would say.
Okay.
There's also a little bit of interesting CDR stuff going on with Sentinel Watch, bottom left, top choice node. Those are sort of the main gameplay impacting
reduced by
things.
1 second? Oh my god. Wait a second. That sounds awesome.
But it is kept, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But yeah, shorter cooldowns are fun. And then there's a little bit of a sort of strange execute mechanic choice node going on the right bottom side.
So whenever I looked at this, I looked at Overwatch and I was like, that doesn't look bad for Mythic Plus. I didn't really consider the Crescent Steel as like an execute mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that they are so specialized, because Overwatch, as you say, it's pretty good for Mythic Plus, but Crescent Steel, because MM has sick execute,
yes.
And I'm pretty happy that they're leaning more into that niche. The tuning is really bad of MM now, but that's another matter. Like,
that's
all
different,
else equal, the execute is great, and Crescent Steel leans heavily into that.
Okay. Dude, okay, so does Catch Out, how does this route work? Do you know?
I don't know for sure, because I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. Mostly it just looks freaking terrible. Sideline has some interesting stuff that could be relevant. The Catch Out just looks like you'll never pick it.
Dude, I hope that Catch Out works similar to Binding Shot, old Binding Shot. Where it's like,
in the sense that the root doesn't break?
The root doesn't break a damage, yes.
I mean, that's all well and good, but you need the target affected by Sentinel to hit you, which that doesn't happen in Mythic Plus unless you forget to hit misdirection.
Okay, good cobs, I hadn't... Okay,
so the trigger is
only a
terrible,
PvP talent.
the effect itself, basically, yeah.
I read it as targets that you're hitting, not targets that hit you. Never.
Yeah, I mean, if you absolutely hate yourself and you want to play MM in open world content, I guess it's great for that and PvP.
Yeah, okay, so not relevant.
But Sideline is, so when Sentinel starts dealing damage, which will hopefully be almost all the time, the target is snared by 40% for 3 seconds. I could imagine really high uptimes on this on AoE, which means like perma 40% snare, like not perma, but like high uptime 40% snare on AoE. That's pretty decent. That's like mini Frost Mage kind of stuff for kiting.
In Mythic Plus, like once you start to get over like a 30% snare, the snares are actually noticeable and pretty relevant. So for the True Shot, okay, you said that Sentinel's going to have a pretty high uptime. Are you going to be getting 15 seconds out of this every single time? How exactly?
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem. It's going to be absolutely trivial, I think, to get 15 seconds. The problem is that it caps at 15 seconds, which is just like, it is so uncommon that a 1 minute 45 second cooldown is tremendously more useful than a 2 minute cooldown.
Never, almost, right?
Exactly. Now, if this cap was 30 seconds, it would be a completely different story, because now it's going to line up with every second use of Death Chakram, which is this class tree ability that we use, 45 second cooldown, 10% damage.
That would be bad.
And if, let's say, there's a, I don't know, puzzle box or some mirror, or 3 minute unused trinket or effect, having a 1 minute 30 second true shot / coordinated assault is huge. But 1 minute 45, I feel like we're just getting capped at the knees for no good reason there. I think it should be
minute 30.
Significantly, 30, or I don't know, maybe uncapped. Why not? Like,
Dude.
some of the best MM moments of in history have been really like 1 minute true shot builds and stuff.
I remember True Shot back in Legion. Dude, that ability with you press True Shot and then you multi-shot. Oh god, what was it? Multi-shot trick shot or something like that? That was so sick.
Yeah. I mean, like Legion MM is obviously much yearned for, but I think ignoring all the other mechanics of that, having a short cooldown True Shot, like True Shot is when MM is fun. Like between True Shots, MM is just not like you're just spending time looking forward to the next True Shot. Right now, you're basically locked in at 2 minutes. There is a talent that lets us get a bit more CDR that we use on like Smolderon to get it. And I guess you could combine that with this and get close to 1 minute, but then you're losing a ton of power on those True Shots. And the idea is, I mean, obviously you can't have everything, but I think
you can't have everything unless you're a mage.
Unless you're a mage, yeah.
If
you really like MM, I think it's because of the True Shots and how fast the rotation is. Because between that, it's just not it. So
makes sense.
I wish it was 30 seconds at least.
What changes for serve with this? So obviously, what is this? Coordinated assault is being reduced by 15 seconds as opposed to True Shot.
Yeah. There's a rant to make about that, because so coordinated assault, like True Shot, is a talent that you pick, and you pick it this cooldown, coordinated assault, at the expense of another one, which everyone pretty much likes more, called Spearhead. So with both Dark Ranger and this, they are making all these mechanics attached to coordinated assault, but not Spearhead, which means that like they're just killing off a whole branch of a survival there and killing off the Spearhead talent that like we're going to be playing it in Season 4. It's the only good thing about Hunter in Season 4 is that survival probably gets to play Spearhead.
So wait, Pack Leader's also based around coordinated assault?
It leans more into it, yeah. All the mechanics they've made so far for the War Within are basically foreshadowing that Spearhead is either not going to be a thing or it's just going to sit there dead and unused on the right-hand side of the talent tree.
I guess I'm a bit surprised that they wouldn't have just like pushed that to live already, right? Or pushed that to the alpha already as like a major change, because they did hit a couple of specs with like big talent changes.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, there's nothing preventing them in principle from turning this into like just adding a Spearhead to it. It would be completely fine. It's 1 minute 30 CD. Increase it to 30. Now you have a cool 1 minute CD as survival. Like, why not? Because
that would be
same
cool.
thing. Like,
that would be cool.
Yeah, it really would be, because then you have a choice of 1 minute 30 or 1 minute CD, which is a lot more interesting than, let's say, they didn't change the CDR cap. It would be 1 minute 45 second or 1 minute 15.
Okay, honestly, you've convinced me. I'm down for them to make this, to uncap this. This would be sick.
Uncapped would be sick. I mean, uncap it and then tune accordingly. I don't need to be overpowered, although it would be nice to be viable.
It would be nice, yeah, of course.
Yeah. but like who doesn't like more frequent cooldowns? Not 100% uptime on cooldowns, because then it's no longer a cooldown, right?
Well, I mean, True Shot's only 8 seconds and Coordinated Assault only lasts...
So they're both. So True Shot is a little bit special. It can be longer, it can be shorter, but you're usually looking at 15 to 20% uptime. Why not 30 to 50%? Right?
Oh, you feel like a demon. You feel like a demon hunter then.
Yeah, but I mean that's okay. I mean, I don't think people are complaining about how demon hunter feels.
I will say procking True Shot as MM, and you just get so many aim shots and stuff like that. That does feel real good. That's a real good feeling.
That's a whole other thing. So obviously, Nabarus MM had this insane, it was the most RNG spec in WoW history, probably, because you could get these True Shot procs.
That was so
and
gross.
If you got a True Shot proc, you would generate way more chances of another one, and so it could snowball. But then they kept that. Everyone complained about the RNG. Then they decided, let's fix that. Let's help them out and just make sure that they always have terrible RNG, and that's why MM is where it is now. So yeah,
Dude, this Lunar Storm effect looks so sick, though. I'm just reading it
Yeah,
more.
I have one major complaint about it though. So
Okay.
it's the whole every 15 seconds your next rapid fire or wildfire bomb in the case of survival does so and so. And the so and so is great.
Wildfire bomb? Oh my god.
Yeah, wildfire bomb we press way more often than rapid fire. That's not that big of a deal though. But the problem is that you don't get to control this. Why can it not be a button? And I'm gonna loop this all back to the first thing you asked about in a moment with Sentinel Owl. Yeah. It's because they made this mistake before with Salvo, which is the bottom left talent of MM.
I remember when this used to be like an actual button to press, yeah.
Salvo is now a button to press. It used to be every 45 seconds, your next multi-shot or volley will trigger this and this. This was awful, because if the ICD expired at the end of a Mythic Plus pack, you did not want to press like your core ability because you would proc this thing when you wanted it for the next pack. And everyone complained about it, and they say, all right, let's just make it an like non-GCD instant that you can macro into volley.
It's just
a bit of a
macro into
Band-Aid
volley.
fix.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's fine. But they're repeating the mistake again with Lunar Storm, where it's the same thing. Like, we want it to be something we really control. It's a bit more tolerable because it's a 15-second cooldown instead of a 45-second one. So even if it procs like kind of badly at the end of a pack, you'll probably be fine. But why can't it be like Sentinel Owl?
I guess you're gonna have to track. You're gonna have to track the buff, right? Because if you get like a
You're gonna have to
rapid
track
fire
the
reset,
ICD, yeah.
Yeah, if you get a rapid fire reset or something like that, and you're not like paying attention, and this was like on like a 1 or 2 second cooldown or something like that, and you just like send the rapid fire, you're gonna be mad.
Yeah, but hear me out, Tettles. Why not? If we look at Sentinel Owl for a moment.
Yeah, this button
So
sucks.
Sentinel Owl-
I've seen this button. It's bad.
The power of the button sucks, but there is actually a gem hidden in its mechanic, which is that when you spend focus, you you get a second of Sentinel Owl that you can trigger at will up to a cap. The longer you spend not casting it, the longer it will last. That is a cool mechanic. So you can choose to use it more often, but it will like only last a short while.
Okay.
Why can't Lunar Storm work like that? It would loop everything back to Sentinel Owl, which is like in a thematically at least the inspiration for this. Like, I like how a Sentinel Owl works in terms of how, you know, that particular cooldown mechanic. It's just that Sentinel Owl is a terrible button, but that's a whole other issue.
I will say that I think that this is definitely the time that they should be doing stuff that like so there could be an argument made, oh, that would make Lunar Storm 2 overpowered. I think that this is definitely the time that they, you know, kind of go hard on making stuff that could be potentially overpowered, and then they tune the numbers later as opposed to
yeah, but that's fine. Like,
I think that this makes sense. I think that what you're saying absolutely makes sense with how they would make Lunar Storm. I will also say, and I think that Hunter kind of falls in this problem, ground effect AoE abilities have always, you know, had some pretty significant drawbacks, particularly like volley for MM as well. Like if your mobs get moved out.
Yeah, for example, it's annoying but the thing is, at least volley, like most of volley's value is not its damage, it's that it triggers trick shots, which helps you out with other stuff.
Yeah.
This one, and obviously Wild Spirits, that was obviously the main thing. Like if you pull things out of Wild Spirits, It was just awful. But there was Resonating Arrow back in the day, like sort of a different flavor of Wild Spirits. If the tank moved stuff out of Resonating Arrow, they got like a 4-second buffer refresh of the effect. And it only lasted like 10 seconds. So it was okay. In fact, if you wanted to min-max, you would have the tank pull it out at the last second and you would get another 3 seconds. But okay,
good luck with that.
I digress. Yeah. But why can't Lunar Owl? So 8-second duration is kind of short, especially considering our cooldowns generally last like 2 to 3 times as long. Why can't it be trigger less often if you want to, like Sentinel Owl optionally, trigger less often, but on your cooldowns, it's actually going to saturate your cooldown duration. Last just as long. I think that would just feel better.
I think that would feel better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it would definitely play into your cooldowns a bit more. If it played to your full duration of true shot and coordinated assault, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and if the pack or the boss fight is coming to an end, like in the last 10 seconds, then okay, my cooldowns are not up, but I can fire like a decent Lunar Storm at the very end and squeeze out some extra damage.
Yeah, makes sense.
Anything is better than this like ICD based, okay, well, whether you want it or not, your next bomb is gonna do a ton of damage that you might not actually want right now.
How are you feeling about MM overall?
Okay, I mean, okay. MM
We got
is...
3 minutes.
Okay. MM is not great right now. The tuning is really, really bad, but okay, tuning is a thing, but
it's terribly tuned, but we knew that, right?
Okay, But there's also there's more to tuning. Like it's also a thing. Okay, if you want to do AOE as MM or BM, you have to drop a ton of single target to do so. So
I
much
hate
so
the
that it's not
target
worth.
capping of MM, by the way, on AOE.
Yeah, okay, that's another thing. So
hate it.
the
I hate that
target
so
cap, the
bad.
hard target cap is insane. It is like MM's one strength, and everyone will see this on Primal Council in Season 4, is low target AOE. Like 3 to 4 targets, MM, like one of the best specs in the game. But that's like one fight out of like 30. And it's like never happens in Mythic Plus, right? So MM either needs like a small AoE nerf, uncap its AoE, or something to make it viable for the highest keys. Because MM is all about its AoE, but it's just hamstrung by this AoE cap that like you wouldn't like, even when MM's AoE on 6 targets is much better than BM, once the keys get high enough and the pools get ambitious enough, it just dies. And it dies in another way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is literally. I mean, yeah, defensively, Hunter is just atrocious.
Yeah, and there are some like silver linings in these hero talent trees. Like, don't look back, top left of Sentinel, 10% absorb shield when you, or like up to 10% when you consume stacks. That could be good. Smoke screen
that actually.
over Dark
Wait a
Ranger.
second, that's really good. Hold on, especially since you said this has high uptime. Hold on, I didn't even notice that.
So I expect it'll have quite high uptime. I think you're going to be riding on pretty high stacks of this. But the thing is, Hunter already has a good health pool. Like, our problem is self-sustained, really. The problem is that, like, if you leave a Hunter at 50% HP, they will stay at 50% HP until someone presses a heal on them.
Dude, press
acceleration. Yeah,
you just press acceleration. I was looking for
every
the word.
minute or so
Press
for a
accel,
GCD.
man.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it on the GCD? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm done.
No, that's a very fair point. I think that's a great question.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Smoke screen in the Dark Ranger tree makes that better, and I think if smoke screen stays like it is, like at least Dark Ranger hunters won't have a problem with survivability. But hunter, like a marksmanship hunter specifically, needs an uncapping of its AoE, and it needs to lose less single target when it wants to do some AoE. It's just outrageous that some specs lose like 2% or 1% single target when they want to do full AoE, while other specs lose like 15%, like BM, MM, and like Red Pella and stuff.
Yeah, I think that they've been doing a better job in general, but it's still not perfect.
I mean, if you're gonna have that trade-off, then there should be some compensation on either end. Like, if you're gonna do terrible single target in your AoE spec, you better do a ton of AoE. But MM doesn't even do that.
I
right?
mean, most specs
in
in the game don't even have drawbacks anymore. They kind of fixed a lot of that with the talent tree reworks.
A lot of specs like have their cake and eat it too when it comes to like single target AoE trade-offs. But MM and BM hunters, they just don't, and it hurts them so much in AoE on top of the other stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, Azor. Where can people find you?
My pleasure. I can be found on the Hunter Discord, TrueShot Large, Twitch TV/Azotherian, YouTube as well. I uploaded the video about the Sentinel stuff. And
what's your IO right now for the people?
Oh, it's like high 3500s, but it's been there for like months because I always grind hard early season. I got to like 35, 50 pretty early season. Then no one.
Dude, I thought you were gonna be like
anymore,
3900 or something. I thought you were gonna be something ridiculous.
I think the number 100 is like 37 something. So
I thought that you were gonna be the number 100 because you normally are. All right, perfect. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. Appreciate it.
All right, cheers. Bye bye.
Oh my goodness. Hello, Preheat and Porom. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh my gosh, we have Mage talk.
Yeah, we've been chatting it up before we joined. Don't worry, we already did the whole talk without you.
Yeah, we're kind of out of things to talk about now.
All right, so Mage got 2 new hero talents, right?
Just one, Sun
Or
Fury.
just
Sun
one.
Fury.
Okay, it was just Sun Fury. Dude, Preheat, I saw you in the Discord saying that Sun Fury is the greatest thing they've ever created. Is that true?
Yes, huge if true, and it is 100% true. I'll tell you why too. It is because it does not seem to synergize with Sun King's Blessing. That's like the main reason, and I hate that talent. So
you don't like Sun King's Blessing at all? Interesting.
Okay, I wouldn't say I don't like it at all, but I do hate it for a lot of reasons because it's so good. It's like an oppressing presence. It just kind of like forms our entire tree. It's one of those talents where like the entire class is basically bending over backwards to accommodate it. And it's fun for a bit, but then you play it for like 2 years and then you're like, okay, maybe I want to play something different. But I can't because it's way too good. So that's kind of the problem with it.
It also kind of sacrificed a lot of Fire's like burst presence that it had back in like BFA, right?
Yeah,
Well,
it
we got
basically
SKB and Shadowlands, the profile flattened right out.
That
and
the profile of
Dragonflight
Fire
got even
Mage
worse.
is surprisingly flat relative to what it used to be.
yeah. Basically, it took fire from its roots, which was like a super high burst spec that was all about like having your cooldowns lining everything up, thinking things through quite a bit, to being more of uptime, constant, having to hit the mob, and like if you can't hit, it's just really bad. It completely derails everything.
Okay, so basically how this works, and just to explain it, we'll start with fire. Every time you consume Hot Streak 6 times, you summon a Spellfire Sphere, which increases your spell damage by 4%, stacks up to 3 times. Does this refresh? How exactly does this work?
Porom, do you want to take this one, or should I?
Oh, go ahead. You've played with it more than I have.
Okay, so yeah, basically the spheres, you have them generating out of combat passively. It's like pretty slow though, but you get like these nice little 3 orbs above your head. It's very much in the theme of Kel'Thas. Like if you know of him, right, he's got those 3 orbs around him. He's always got phoenixes hanging out around doing stuff. That's the whole point of this build, is you're basically him. So you generate these spheres. It's true,
honestly.
and you use the spheres to use like really awesome spells too. But yeah, so you passively generate them. How it works is there's 2 buffs. So one buff is how many spheres you have, and then the other buff is where you're at in your journey to getting a new sphere, right? And you have to cast 6 hot streaks to get to that point, or 4 clear casting. So it just keeps track of like where you're at. Once you get the 4 clear casts or 6 hot streaks, it's going to give you Burden of Power, and it's going to give you a sphere. We haven't talked about Burden of Power yet, but this is basically like a little damage amp on one of your next Pyroblasts or Spenders. But yeah, you generate the orbs. And then the orbs, you have no way to spend the orbs. The orbs aren't for you. They're for your bird. So have you ever watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
No, I know what you're talking about. It's for your bird?
Yeah. So like in JoJo's, there's this concept called stands, where it's like you've got like this spiritual manifestation that like is ultra powerful, and that's how you fight. This is basically a stand. You have like a Phoenix stand. So whenever you pop your cooldowns, the Phoenix like comes out from behind you and like starts doing crazy damage. And he's the one who uses the spheres. Phoenix eats the sphere and then produces exceptional spell with it.
Pyroblast and Flame Strike have no cast and we're guaranteed to critically strike. Wow. This this seems really good.
Yeah. Let's talk about that talent. You're looking at hyperthermia, right?
I'm looking at Memory of Alaria with hypothermia.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is like how the Phoenix gets like all the juice, right? So like whenever
I'm looking at the juice in this guy up.
Yeah, so whenever the Phoenix is out, you get twice as many stacks of Mana Addict. So you get really high on the mana. You're going like twice as fast. It gives you a bunch of haste buffs. They all overlap, so you get like a lot more haste. That part's nice. It's not really the important part though. So once the Phoenix is out, the Phoenix is going to consume your spheres and use like awesome spells. We're talking like Arcane Surge, Greater Pyroblast, Meteors, Phoenix Flames.
Greater Pyro, hold on.
Yes, the Phoenix casts
I remember
Greater
this
Pyroblast. I'm not joking.
Wait, that doesn't even say that.
Huh. Oh, hold on. You need to look at the talent above Ashes of Alar. It's like the tome looking one. Invocation. Hear this. Yeah. So casting Combustion makes your Phoenix come out, right? The Phoenix uses your spheres to make exceptional spells, and it says right here, so it also allows it to now cast Greater Pyroblast and Arcane Surge.
Okay, are you good at PvP?
Okay, yeah, the PvP question, so I tested this. The bird is a pacifist. Bird does not fight people. I tried... I know. It's crazy. The bird refuses to fight. He's a lover, not a hater, all right? So if you go out in the field with someone, you do a duel, listen, I was like, yo, check this out. This damage is going to be insane. Come out here, duel me. Like, I'm going to show you how much burst my bird is. I'm just going to AFK. I'm going to let my bird solo you, right? I go out there. I duel him. The bird won't help me. The bird just watches me die. He will not fight. I don't know why.
Let's talk about these choice notes. Lessons of Debilitation or Gravity Lapse. Lessons reads like it's insane. You're going to cast Supernova? Like what?
It's probably the problem with Lessons though is it's probably going to detract from you casting other spells that are more damaged. So like it might be really good in PvP or really good when you need like a lot of control, but probably really bad damage, right? Because you're not going to cast Surge for that exceptional spell. Instead, you're going to cast Supernova, which does like 1/10 of the damage.
Wait, Gravity Lapse is an on-use ability? Wait, this is one of the first like on-use abilities that I've seen
Yeah,
Like,
so that
as-
replaces,
It replaces an
Blast Wave.
ability.
Yeah, from the class tree.
Wait, what does it replace?
Blast Wave.
Oh, okay, never mind. That makes more
And
sense.
even that's kind of a limiting factor too, right? Because like Blast Wave is a CC ability that you use in M+ to like interrupt a pack, right?
Yeah.
And if you take Gravity Lapse, it has a target cap of 3, so it's actually like an inferior stop in that way.
I
So
don't
this
love
might
that.
actually be like a talent point that you don't spend. You know what I
Well,
mean?
well-
in some PvP cases.
Yeah. So you spend this one on Gravity Lapse so that the bird doesn't know how to cast the PvP spells, because you don't want the
Yeah.
bird to know that. You want the bird to focus on the big damage spells instead. So
I
this
will
is like a non-talent basically.
Okay, I will say the 3-second knockup is not bad, but getting rid of I don't know. So what do you take? Do you just take lessons? Like that actually I don't like this node now that I'm getting explained to me a bit more.
Yeah,
The worst part is you need it to get Codex, so it's not even like you can just not take that point and work around it, you know?
Yeah, so like you just go Gravity Lapse and you just say, okay, well, I guess I'm just not gonna Blast Wave. That's the correct answer, I'm pretty sure. But like I'm
I
sure
hate
this will be
that.
useful, but the fact that it's target capped is a little weird.
I don't like the target. I think the target cap is maybe the mistake there, right? Because I mean, you want Blast Wave, right?
Yeah. If it was just not target capped, we would be completely fine here. And in fact, it would be like way better than Blast Wave, unless it's like Sanguine Weak, I guess.
I would love nothing more than if they were to replace it with a vacuum spell similar to like Chains or
Ooh.
Blood Death Knight Grip and call it, a better supernova kind of.
I'm down.
It's
okay. So Overflowing Power versus Sun Fury Execution what's the deal with these?
okay. So basically, your choice here is between having more combustion uptime or having Sun Fury Execution, which is just 5% more execute. But it's important to note. Okay, so you know how I'm talking about like the Phoenix only comes out whenever you press combustion.
Yeah.
So SKB does not work with this. If you activate combustion through SKB, it does not work with the Phoenix. All right.
Okay.
If you extend combustion with SKB, it does not work with the Phoenix. But guess what does work with the Phoenix? This talent right here, Overflowing Power. So I'm pretty sure you just like
Ew.
always lock this one in, unless there's situations where like maybe a boss is stuck at 35% or something like that. But having the extra combustion time means 2.5 more seconds of bird. And you want to min-max the bird uptime. It's all about the bird, okay?
It's all about
more
the bird, I
spheres,
see.
more bird. We want to min-max as much bird as possible.
Okay. All right, let's look at this from an arcane perspective a bit now that we've seen it from fire. It does sound gross for fire. From arcane, the the trigger is a little bit different, right? So instead of hot streak consumptions, it's based off clear casting procs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The clear casting happens more frequently than consuming a hot streak, doesn't it?
No, clear casting is a lot less than hot streak. The big
Okay.
difference here though is hot streak you generate and spend them in AoE. Clear casting you really don't.
Oh,
And that's kind of a
well,
major limiting factor of this tree, and it's kind of a problem in the Spellslinger tree as well, is both of these trees are heavily based around clear casting for arcane, which is not a proc that like we're happy to have it in single target, but in AoE it's entirely useless.
Okay, so is this? Do you think that this tree is just going to be mostly a single target tree then for arcane?
The Spellslinger tree has similar things. One of the really positive things in this tree, from like an M+ perspective, an AoE perspective, is the Overflowing Power Sun Fury Execution trait that we were looking at a minute ago.
Yeah.
Increasing the bombardment execute is actually insane for
Wait a
AoE.
second. Hold on, that's actually pretty big. 100% increased damage. Oh wow. Does that work on AoE too?
Yeah. Arcane bombardment calculates based on the barrage on the target. So if you have 5 targets that are in execute range, each one of them gets execute damage increase. Or if you like have 3 out of 5, then the 3 will get execute, right?
Okay. Oh wow, that's pretty good.
Definitely one of the stronger throughput talents as far as AoE goes. Glorious Incandescence is also going to be pretty nice. The middle right, and that's going to allow us to get a much quicker reset on orbs. The problem is, again, is Burden of Power you can't consume unless you spend clear casting procs. So it still kind of feeds through that loop.
Gravity Lapse versus Lessons and Debilitation still a similar issue, or do you think it's just going to end up being Gravity
exactly
Lapse?
Same issue? Yeah.
Okay.
If it's kind of tragic that it's not one node down, because I would actually recommend you fill out the tree and just not spend that talent. so that you can keep Blast Wave for the stop, you know what I mean, and not screw up your DPS. It's just kind of an unfortunate note in general.
The downside is if you do that, then you can't link your build to other people.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So what do you think about Spellslinger tree? I guess this is maybe a bit out of scope of what we were supposed to talk about. Is the Spellslinger tree? I remember looking at this tree and I was thinking that this is nasty for Frost.
Yeah, it definitely has shades of like it was designed for Frost. You know what I mean? And then they kind of like back end fixed it for Arcane a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
It has a similar problem where it's based around clear casting, right? So it's going to be limited in its effectiveness in AoE. Though the orb talent here is much stronger. I think it's the top right one, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah. I remember this. Dude, I just feel like the Arcane Splinters in general was, I feel like a more interesting mechanic, I guess is how I describe it.
It's funny you say that because it might.
It's just
like,
passive
I think
damage,
it's probably the blander one. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I
it's
think
just
when
passive.
it comes to the APL, it's gonna be like the same exact thing. You know what I mean?
There's nothing that changes.
Basically, there's the Supernova talent in the middle, and that one it might have some. Is it the middle one, or am I thinking of the right? Sorry, it's middle right.
Okay. Yeah.
So the unerring proficiency might have some implication for how we use or whether we even talent into Supernova, because currently we haven't, right?
Dude, can we get Arcane Mage talenting Supernova? That is the coolest ability ever.
Oh, I totally agree. I would love nothing more than a talent tree revamp that allowed us to actually get that in some form or another, as well as Chronoshift. Like, looking at the spec tree, there's a bunch of utility stuff that's really cool that we just don't have points to spend on because it's like, you know, more than 1 or 2% DPS lost or something like that.
Yeah, so by the way, I have a lot more to talk about for Fire. I know for Arcane, like on Sun Fury, it's like kind of, I guess not, it doesn't seem like it's as designed around it, but there's like a lot about Sun Fury still to talk about.
All right, what we got?
Okay, so for Sun Fury for Fire, there's basically 3 main phases. It's going to change how you approach Fire completely because, number 1, it's probably going to change your like capstone talent. Obviously, going from SKB to Unleash Inferno is going to cause you to have more combustions. I think roughly 1 combustion like every 50 seconds or so is what I was getting whenever I was testing. I actually played this on the PTR like probably about 4 hours on the target dummies just because there was so much different.
You said 1 combust every how many seconds?
50 seconds.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
yeah. And so keep in mind, the bird does crazy bursts, right? So in dungeons, we're being scaled up. It's hard to have a sense for where the numbers should be, but just like as a point of reference, the bird was doing millions of damage and machine gunning millions of damage, right? So it's all about getting the bird out as much as possible. It's all about feeding the bird as many orbs as possible. But afterwards, right? So like whenever combustion finishes, you've got hyperthermia, so you're able to machine gun. During combustion, you want to set it up. So this talent you're looking at right here, Glorious Incandescence. So after you spend 6 hot streaks, you gain the orb, right? You also gain Burden of Power, which is going to make your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike hit twice as hard. After you consume that Pyroblast, using Phoenix Flame is going to activate this talent right here, where it calls down 8 meteorites. Each of these meteorites takes your mana, so right now it just ooms you on the alpha. But I'm sure that's a bug, and they'll fix that. So it actually is really annoying.
You. Hold on.
Yeah, it just ooms you. You run out of mana as Fire with Time Warp in like 50 seconds. Without Time Warp, you still run out of mana in like a minute or 2.
That seems like a mistake.
It's a bug. Yeah. I've given feedback on that. So, but like, let's assume that bug isn't there, right? So, you remember the Mechagon bracers? For
yes,
Fire Mage?
the one where you got CDR on Fire Blast charges.
Yeah, exactly. So like the talent that you're looking at below Burden of Power, if you can go back to it, Glorious Incandescence. That one gives you basically on-demand Mechagon bracers, and what's cool about it is since it's being set up by another buff, you can basically queue up 2 of them. So like if you get your Burden of Power up and then you like spend it, but you don't use Phoenix Flame, then you have it like ready in the queue, right? You can build up another Burden of Power. Yeah. You can prime up another Burden of Power, and then you're in your combustion, right? And you spend like all your Fire Blasts. So you enter your combustion, you're just Fire Blast, back and forth until you're out of Fire Blast. You use the Phoenix Flame, but all these meteors start falling. They all do crazy damage, and it instantly refills your Fire Blasts. So you use those Fire Blasts, and then you use, guess what? So you just procced it again because you now loaded up the next one. Now you use another Phoenix Flame. Now you have another shot. So you can basically queue up 2 of these.
How does it feel? Like, I guess, how does it feel to play? Like, do your wrists hurt, maybe?
Yeah, so like you're pretty much BM Hunter. At Fire Mage is just like, so in Combustion you're like fully mobile, right? You're like Scorching, but you're mainly just Fire Blast, Power Blasting. And then you queue up those two, right? So you're just Fire Blast, back and forth. And then as soon as your Combustion is about to end, that's about when you're running out of resources, right? Now you have Hyperthermia, so everything is instant cast, so you're just instant cast Pyro Blasts, right? And then after that, your Combustion comes up in like 20 seconds. So you do one shifting power, boom, Combustion's back, let's go right back into it. So the burst on this thing is insane, and you're like exceptionally mobile, and the playstyle feels completely different, because you have to think about how you're lining up the buffs. Fire already has this problem where you've got like 6 different buffs that you have to pay attention to all at the same time, right?
Yeah, okay.
You're eliminating SKB from that, so there's a little bit less to worry about, but then you're also adding like 2 more things you're tracking, because you're tracking your spheres, and you're tracking your Bird and Power. But it allows you to basically have an insane amount of ducks in a row that you can just immediately fly through them all. The playstyle is like very intuitive. I was doing this without UI, right? Like just using like the Blizzard stuff.
I couldn't test really some talents because of not having like UI. I was like,
yeah, I mean, like I'd run out of mana, which was kind of annoying. But aside from that, it felt like insanely good to play, and it felt like you just have like so much on-demand burst.
Is it still going to be like an ignite based? Like, is it still going to be like a strong ignite based talent, or are you going to be like flame striking more now?
Yeah, so I think you can go either way with it. You definitely have it's really hard to say without like add-ons and logs and stuff what's gonna be best. But so I tried it out as Flame Strike and I tried it out as Ignite. I was getting insane amounts of Ignite damage. So my mage was like, I'm level 400 or something. My Ignites were ticking for like 400k on the target dummies. It was just like an absurd amount of damage Ignite was doing. Whenever I went and did Flame Strike, I felt like it was okay, but mainly my bird was just doing the carrying. Like the bird just does so much damage. It's unreal.
I was gonna say, I feel like the ignite's naturally gonna be a little less because a lot of your damage is coming from the bird, and part of that's gonna be G pyros and arcane surges, right, which don't generate any ignite value.
Yeah,
and
but
also
they do a ton
like
of
the hyperthermia stuff at the end of combustion. That stuff, you know what I mean. Half of those aren't gonna generate ignite either because there's no hot streak.
Well, no, it'll generate Ignite, but it won't generate the bonus Ignite. Yeah. You're partially right,
okay, that makes sense. Okay.
But the main thing is just that this is a completely different fire than what we're used to. Like as you like Fire Mage as you know it is going to be Frostfire. That's
exactly.
That tree
I remember
is
when
the
people,
SKB one.
I remember when people like this came out, people were like so hyped on this because it's continue with the SKB process, right?
Yeah. So like Frostfire is definitely more like the traditional fire. And then Sun Fury is just a whole new thing. There's really no way weird. To there's really no way to like compare it against, I mean, unless you like look way back. Like it's more akin to like the Fire Mage before Shadowlands, essentially.
Yeah.
I feel like in a general sense, Sun Fury is going to feel pretty different for Fire and Arcane. And it kind of fits really well because Frostfire feels very similar to normal Fire, and Spell Slinger feels very similar to normal Arcane. So I think this is definitely going to be the tree more people are excited about.
Literally, I logged in, dude, and I played this, and I could not believe how fun it was. Because like because as you know, like I started playing Evoker, right? Because I was like kind of annoyed with the stagnation of Fire Mage.
Understandable.
And I was playing Sun Fury, and I was like, oh my god, I think I might main Mage again. This is too fun. Like the amount of bursts you have, the bird is so insane. Obviously, there's like issues with it, with the bird just like not fighting people.
Fucking Kael'thas, right? Like
you get the RP as Kael'thas, yeah.
You get the balls, dude. You need the balls. They're very important. And you're very mana starved. Hold on, I've got like a copy paste meme to put in the chat here. But yeah, it's very, very fun. Like I guarantee you, no matter who you are, if you're coming in and you're playing this build, you're gonna have a blast.
I have one question, Preheat, because I obviously don't have alpha. Is the Arcane version, do they get purple orbs? Very important.
No, your orbs are you just get like the fire orbs. At least that's what I saw.
Half the Arcane community's not going to play Sun Fury as a result.
Look at the chat.
Wrath of the Sun Mage knee balled badly. Very low mana. That's a good one.
And the birds are pacifists, dude. I was so annoyed by that. I'm sure they're going to fix the bird. I don't know how they're going to tune this for PvP, though. I don't know how they're going to tune it for PvE either, because whenever I had to kill any elite on the alpha, you know what I did? I just walked up to the elite and I pressed combustion and I left my computer. And guess what? I came back to a dead elite every single time.
I think I'm down for them to. I think that the thing that they should focus the most on is making it feel good, and then they can come back and tune it later. I'm not too. I think that that's almost independent of what they should be doing. I think they should be looking to make all this stuff cool.
Yeah,
I think
it's about it feeling cool, and this feels cool. There's no
hero
doubt.
talents have a problem of not feeling cool sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna have that issue. From
this one is
in red.
Love that.
Okay, I was saying before that like the Riders of the Apocalypse was my favorite.
Oh, Riders of the
this one
Apocalypse
is
is
now my
insanely
favorite.
cool.
This one's like up there, man.
Hey, it kind of fits, right? Because it's the only mage theme that's actually like based off a role in the game, right? Like Spellslinger mobs and Frostfire, those are just like schools and things you call casters. But like Sun Fury's an actual, lore established thing in WoW.
You know what they should have done?
Kind of cool.
Oh, go ahead.
Khadgar Arcane.
Yeah.
That's what it should have been.
Yeah,
Khadgar Arcane.
I suggested multiple times, like Lich or Kirin Tor Archmage would have been a great Arcane Frost landing zone for that. But hey, Splinter Slinger's all right. We'll roll with it.
We've seen worse.
Is there any hype Boomkin hero talent build right now? Tettles?
Yeah,
the Grove is pretty cool.
The Elun's Chosen. So the Keeper of the Grove one is based around trees and it's trash. The Elun's Chosen one is actually sick. You get a ton of astral power from it. It just feels good to play. Kind of similar to Mage.
There's like so I was like doing dungeons and stuff, and I saw some like shamans with the like ancestral spirits, and that looks so cool.
Wait, what spec of shaman has ancestral spirits? Is that the Ellie?
I don't know. They had like these like spirits that ran around with them, and they were always chain lightning pulling stuff on accident. I don't know if that's part of the talent builder. They're targeting the wrong mobs, but
it's
a lot of these.
one. I forgot about this.
Yeah, a lot of these builds on the it might be Farseer. I think it's Farseer.
Oh, is it Farseer? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these builds on the alpha, whenever I was running dungeons, it seems like Blizzard really forgot to like whitelist the spells. So like all of the spells that hit other stuff nearby, just pull everything. You just pull everything always.
God.
Like it's like Hunters with Barrage, old Barrage, where it just like pulls the entire room. Yeah, so that's obviously gonna need to be fixed.
That'll get fixed,
there's a lot of
surely.
really, really cool like stuff added to a lot of these specs. I think Shaman was probably the one that stood out the most to me whenever I was running around with them. But everyone who I played with as Mage was like, dude, that spec looks awesome. What is that? Like, I want to play that.
I haven't seen this. I gotta go.
Cool.
I gotta go look at it after the fact. I might need to make a Mage.
You should, dude. You should. It's insane. Yeah, definitely lock it in. And you're gonna be like, wait, what? Because the rotation is just kind of weird to wrap your mind around. But just remember that like it's all about building the burn and power. You spin it with the Phoenix Flame. You need to load those up for your busts. You want to get into your bust right away, and you want to just like use your hyperthermia afterwards. There's no game indicator for hyperthermia. You just have to know. So like obviously you can look at the buff, but once combustion ends, that's when you're in hyperthermia.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Where can people find you guys?
So I'm on twitch.tv/preheat. You can also find me on YouTube. Just search up Preheat. I have a video, by the way, of me playing Sunfire or Sun Fury. So if you want to watch that, it's like
on your YouTube or where is it?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube. Yeah.
Okay.
And definitely go check that one out. There's also one for Devastation Evoker for Flame Shaper and Skill Commander. So, but that's the best way to find me is probably on my YouTube channel.
And then I'm at twitch.tv/Porom Games as well on YouTube, but I don't publish a whole lot. And also the Mage Discord, I'm pretty active there, probably an unhealthy amount. As one more point too, just to bring it up, the mana addiction talent in the top left, something we didn't really touch on too much.
Oh, is this
kind
thing
of like a blander passive talent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just haste granted when you consume clear casting or hot streak. And it's worth noting that, like, as a result of temporal warp and time anomaly in the class tree, and Arcane's global cooldown being very low, or spellcast being very close to the GCD, haste is like the last thing in the universe we want, unless they're gonna.
Oh, really?
Like,
haste
get
is
rid of
haste
it
is
somewhere else.
terrible. Oh, I didn't know that.
It's really that we get so much of it automatically, right? So
Guess who loves haste?
fire.
Fire. Now we know, man.
The main character of
the main
WoW,
character,
right?
yeah. The
Yeah,
main
dude.
character of the main class. I get it.
Yeah. We're literally getting to play Kel'Thas, dude. How cool is that?
All right, perfect. Thank you guys so much for showing up. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
for
for having
having
us.
Later, guys.
Play that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That was cool. I feel like I got to make it a fire mage now. I feel like I've been successfully gaslit into needing to make a fire mage. Next up, we're gonna have Kalamazi talking about Warlock. Kalamazi. We get to talk about new Warlock hero towns. What did they get? They got 16 hero towns. I don't remember. They got Soul Harvester. That's what it was. Yo, what's up, man?
Sir Tettles. Hello, how are you?
Dude, it's a good day to be a warlock. You got a new talent, some hero talents. So we got Soul Harvester Warlock, and it's Affliction and Demonology, right?
First off, you didn't answer me. How are you doing? Are you okay?
I didn't. Well, what?
I'm excited.
What?
I love you. All right,
I
never mind.
appreciate. I appreciate you as well, Kalamazi.
Oh, come on! Wow, that is. Oh my gosh!
Listen. I'm not ready to be public with our affection like that, man.
All right, man. That's all right. What? No, what's that? What's going on?
Dude, have you seen some of the gameplay footage of this? By the way, Diabolist is fucking insane.
It looks insane. Yeah, there was a Delve preview that came out a bit ago. With like I think Neri was playing Diabolist in there. It looks sick.
Neri had this big pit lord following her around. It's actually crazy.
It is. It's very cool. Like so that it alternates between a pit lord, a Shivara, and Fel Lord Zakuun, who like spawns and jumps into combat for the 3 demons that Diabolus can summon with its ability. And like there's also a fourth one. Whenever you cast Cataclysm as Destro, it summons a Smolderon.
A Smolderon?
Yeah, it's like it's literally Smolderon that launches Chaos Bolt. It's pretty wild, man.
That's cool. I think that thematically, I loved Diabolist. Okay, so we got business to talk about with Soul Harvester.
All right.
Basically, okay, can you explain this to the people? How exactly does this work?
The Soul Harvester?
Yes. Is it just completely passive, like Malefic Rapture? Like occasionally procs and you consume less shards with Malefic Rapture and Hand of Gul'dan, right?
Yeah, mostly, yeah. Like there are some proc abilities like Nightfall, which for Affliction, which like having that proc will grant you like basically the empowerment of Demonic Soul. But yeah, it's mostly like a passive, like kind of react to a thing. Like I mean, for AF, it reduces the shard cost of Rapture by 1, so it makes it free. Good? Yeah, it makes it free.
Okay.
It only costs 1. It increases damage by 20%, which is solid. And for Demo, it reduces the shard cost of Hand by 1, which is typically always 3 shards. But it spawns you an Imp as well, which is basically another free shard. So it's like a 2 shard reduction for Demo and like 1 for AF.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird they didn't make it 3 shards for Demo, but it's likely to do some weird talent interactions to summon extra pets, so it makes sense. And it spawns you like a Demonic Soul. I guess some like weird like I guess Shadow Demon that spawns and does damage, which is pretty cool. And the whole tree builds upon that. All the Warlock trees have like this cool ability that they build upon hero talents. Yeah.
Okay. This tree, by the way, has the coolest passive nodes ever. I know the I know like the Demonic Soul and Shadow Death, if they're not cool, they're not cool. Spirited Away with Burning Rush no longer doing damage to you, increasing your movement speed by an additional 30% sounds insane. What?
I don't know about that one. I think it's like
why is it's a 60-second cooldown though? Like I don't know.
So like here's the thing, like Burning Rush is baseline 50% movement speed increase. So this is 80. But there's no cooldown. There's a talent now that makes it 60% and reduces your damage taken by half anyways.
Okay.
But it has no cooldown. So it's like you basically have a minute cooldown on Burning Rush for 80% with no damage taken.
Okay, maybe it's not that good.
Yeah, or a 60% increase in speed with less damage taken and it's no cooldown at all.
Clearly the one that we got to talk about the most is Dark Pact shielding you for an additional 50%. What are we doing with that?
I don't know. That's pretty cool.
50%?
So
we picked the number.
Dark Pact's a little wild, yeah. I mean, like there's 2 talents for Dark Pact. Like one reduces its cooldown, making
Yes.
it 45 seconds, and the other one makes it only consume 5% of your health, but grants you a full shield. So like I'm curious if that's an anti-synergy there. Actually, it's called Ichor of Devils. Like it makes Dark Pact stack 5% of your health versus 20, but it gives you a full shield regardless. But I mean, it might just work that way, and you stack like 5% of your health for some Omega shield. Like more defensives, I'll take it. We're not tanky enough already, right?
Yeah. All right, tell me about Shadow Death. Is this thing? Is this tree just completely bland?
You mean like passive or like?
Yeah. Well, I mean bland. Is it bland?
Is it, like,
I mean, obviously
boring?
it's passive, right? But is it boring?
I think like thematically, Diabolus is probably the coolest tree. Like the one that summons pit lords and
That thing
all
is
that-
insane.
Yeah.
That thing looks insane.
Yeah, it's wild. Like this tree feels more affliction based than demonology based. Like Diabolus feels more demo based, and like the Hellcaller tree, which is Destro and Af, also feels more Af based. But like Soul Harvest is pretty much passive. Like Shadow of Death's like it says Soul Rot grants you Shadow of Death for 15 seconds, and when it's active, casting Rapture invokes your demonic soul, which is that shadow thing that spawns as damage, right?
Mhm.
Soul Rot's a talent. It's a minute cooldown. You can make it a half-minute cooldown. So you have to like spec into Soul Rot to basically get your capstone node. Which
Yeah. Are you taking that a lot? I mean, you were taking Dark Harvest for a little bit, weren't you?
Yeah, like you play Soul Rot this season because it's part of your tier bonus in S3 and 4. But like previous seasons, we didn't play it all the time in certain builds. So it's like a forced talent. But I mean, like it does invoke like the Shadow Realm Demon thing, which is pretty cool. It does more damage.
Wait.
You know?
For Demo, this is off Nether Portal and Tyrant.
Yeah, so well, that's the thing. Like Nether Portal and Tyrant are both talents as well, but like, so I'm pretty sure I'm guessing that Warlock's getting some big talent changes for the spec trees, and they haven't put them out yet.
Okay.
Because they've mentioned a lot about Nether Portal and Tyrant and a lot of abilities. I'm guessing it's probably a shared talent node now. You choose one or the other because it's not currently in retail.
Yeah, which makes sense. Dude,
but
okay, so Nether Portal and Tyrant granting Shadow Death makes way more sense than also because you just always take those.
Right, yeah, it's your main cooldown. Yeah.
It makes more sense than Soul Rot, I guess.
Right. Like if Shadow Death was based off of like your Dark Lair, whenever you summoned it, that would make a lot more sense because Dark Lair is basically Tyrant for Affliction, right?
I agree. Yeah.
But you don't also play Dark Lair all the time anymore because it's that bad. So like, but I mean, overall the tree is like pretty cool. Like the node above it, or I guess 2 nodes above it, like Shared Fate, Feast of Souls.
I'm looking at this. Is this thing? Which one of these is takeable?
They're both like takeable. The question is like, does Shared Fate like stack? And does it like jump if like one target dies and the next one dies? It's sort of like a smaller dot-based soul flame effect.
Oh, okay.
If you think about it, right? Which is cool. And Feast of Souls.
What's a succulent soul?
A succulent soul is the thing above it, basically. Well, it's part of like demonic soul, like the first node or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a proc. That's what gives you like the free rapture and the damage increase and all that. And spawns. There's so many souls in this tree, man. It's confusing. I like. It's basically the proc, right? But yeah, Feast of Souls gives you a chance to basically have like that free rapture or that mostly free hand of Gul'dan, which is solid. It just depends on how high the proc chance is whenever you kill a target.
This could be good for Mythic Plus too, right?
Yeah, definitely could be
with more targets dying like that.
Yeah, because like I mean, like doing that spawns that demonic soul, which does like the AoE damage, and like the talent above it, Soul Anathema. Whenever you spawn the demonic soul, it puts a dot on your target. I guess on targets, like plural, which does damage as well. So yeah, it could be like really strong. Like it feels sort of like just it's based on like the AoE centric kind of like dot based feel that AF has. Yeah, and it just builds upon it more. You know.
Okay, do you like this tree?
I think it's pretty good. Yeah. I think the bigger issues just sort of lie in like the actual specs for Warlock. There's like issues with AF and
like what?
I guess for AF at its core. I mean, lack of single target Mythic Plus. If you're playing the AoE build, if you go single target base, your AoE sucks.
Okay.
Like Siphon Life's an issue with its interaction with Malefic Rapture. Absolute Corruption is not very good anymore. Some nodes need to be adjusted a little bit, like Agonizing Corruption. But Like overall, I think Soul Harvest is good. Yeah, it's fun. It is not Diabolus level.
Well, no, that thing is that's hard to beat. You get to summon, you get the Pit Lord occasionally.
Yeah, exactly.
It just shows up.
It's sick. Yeah, I mean, like, have you? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, what were you gonna say? Sorry, I was gonna ask it.
I was gonna hit on the mass AOE curse of element tongues change. Did you hit on that at all by chance?
Wait,
no?
what happened? No, I
that's
missed.
flown under the radar. That's not in this tree. It's in the Diabolus tree or the Hellcaller tree. I don't know if you can pull those up.
It's in the Hellcaller tree.
It's in one of the two. You find it.
Oh, dude, I saw this whenever it came out with the Curse of Tongues every mob.
Yeah, so it changed now. So we weren't sure if it was actually like an aura effect around the player or if it was like an effect around the mob you cast one of the abilities on. But they changed it. It is in.
Is it Aura of Enfeeblement? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's in the Hellcaller tree. I'm trying to find it right now.
I think it's a choice notice.
It is. Yeah, it's like mid row.
It's while Unending Resolve is active.
Yeah,
now?
they've changed it to whenever you pop your major like 3-minute defensive, it applies tongues and the weakness to mobs around you. So basically, what's
I don't like that at all.
No, it's that node was so good, and it just got obliterated. Yeah,
it was like passive around the player before, right? Yeah.
It's like you had to be in melee, probably like for Mythic Plus and like heavy AoE based settings. But like mass cursing, everything is huge. But this being changed to ending resolve, like you're not wasting your wall very likely like that. I mean, you might.
I mean, Dark Pact is pretty good.
No, this is ending resolve. This are other defensive titles.
I know. Dark Pact is pretty good. Maybe we could just get away with pressing unending to tongues everything.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I mean, like that's the other big change. Like I think flew under the radar today. So
did they change anything else? They didn't change any of the trees for Demo, Destro, and AF, right? I think
like spec trees. No, we have all current ones.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think they'll probably change things at some point. Like some talents reference abilities in an awkward manner for hero talents, which means that you're going to change stuff. But like, I don't think it's a great thing if they go live the way they are, but I don't think they will. So
okay, cool. Yeah. Hopefully we have you on next alpha build whenever they announce all the Warlock changes again. Kalamazi, thank you so much.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks for pulling me in.
Where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Kalamazi and
don't make it sound like I'm pulling your teeth, man.
Twitch.tv/Kalamazi, Team Liquid, Wowhead Affliction Guide writer, mediocre Florida man, and Tettles' best friend.
Yep. All right. Later, Kalamazi. I gotta go talk to Babs about Windwalker Monk, which got 3 pages of changes. Oh my god, yeah, they got.
I heard they're insane. Yeah,
they got the rework.
Well, there you go.
Later, homie.
Love you. See you later. Bye.
Love you. Yo, Babs, what's up, buddy?
Hello.
Is today a good day or what? Oh my god, we got Windwalker Monk changes and a lot of them. Holy.
Today is the best day.
Do you wanna start with Monk or do you want to start with Windwalker? What do you want to start with?
I mean, I think probably make everybody wait a little bit longer and start with just the Monk tree.
Okay. We had June on talking about the Monk tree a bit earlier. Obviously tackling that from a Mistweaver POV. How does it look as a Windwalker?
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. There's a lot there, obviously. In terms of changes, it's a pretty significant change. But a lot of the kind of direct Windwalker changes have been, at least in my opinion, and talking to other people, super positive. The big ones that jump out is the change to summon White Tiger statue. That being a passive now that spawns automatically when you cast Zuen, just eliminates a button. And anybody who's played Windwalker knows that we have plenty of buttons.
Oh, the button below is Windwalker is very good. So wait, White Tiger statue was at the bottom of the tree before, wasn't it? Where is it now?
Yeah, so it's third from the bottom now, so they moved it up a bit, so it's a little more accessible, and it also just has, it has 3 different nodes pointing to it. So it's one that you're pretty much going to be able to take off.
I feel like this tree is hard to look at.
There's so that was something when I was sitting down, you know, and because all of this happened while I was at work, right? Because I'm on East Coast time.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in, you know, trying to look at my phone real quick, and there's a lot of arrows on the monk class tree, a lot of directions, but I think that's a good thing. It's not quite as visually appealing as I think the Windwalker tree, which is almost completely symmetrical, and all the arrows kind of go, you know, similar ways, whereas the monk tree is just got a lot. But yeah, I mean, moving White Tiger statue down, making it happen automatically is just great. I mean, you know, for most of the expansion, even on Prague or whatever, I would just not talent into it because I just did not want to press one, you know, blank button, you know, every chunk of time. So it's nice that that's going to be a passive now. We're not going to have to worry about dropping it or any of that stuff. It's just going to happen automatically, which is awesome.
You see they buffed Fort Brew?
Yeah, so that's something that the tooltip has always been very confusing, especially when, you know, trying to put it in my guides and stuff, because there's about 15 different spell IDs that go with Fort Brew. You know, but definitely looks really good. And
I think it's now like a 2-minute CD or something too.
I think that's the case, or it goes from 230 down to 2 to 130, something like that.
Something like that,
I mean,
yeah.
We lose the trade-off is obviously that Windwalkers and Mistweavers lose dampen harm. But I think if you were gonna, you know, we had 3 active
you have Karma
defensive
too.
cooldowns there, so there is an argument to be made for cutting that back a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Resonant Fist, which had been, you know, the second to bottom row, is now safely in the middle. So it's a lot more accessible. It's also 1 point instead of 2, you know, so there's a lot more to go around. The biggest thing that kind of jumped out to me is that Chi Burst does not generate Chi anymore.
What does it do instead?
It does the same thing, just without generating Chi. Which the Chi generation is kind of locked it in because Chi Wave never generated Chi, so it's kind of locked it in.
Yeah.
And Chi Wave now is passive. And every 15 seconds, your Rising Sun Kick or Vivify will cast Chi Wave. So that's just another button down. We're pretty much almost certainly never going to take Chi Burst. And just going to stick with Chi Wave for most situations. And,
I mean, Chi Burst got its damage increased by 160%, though.
Yeah, but it's not. You were never casting it really for its damage. Not.
I remember you were like pre-pulling with this ability and stuff in the past, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you still, you know, you do currently, and you would if you're going to use it.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's something that's going to come down to AoE. You know, Mythic Plus, you'll have more time, more kind of free globals to cast Chi Burst. So there might be a math point where you just go with that extra button. But it does mean that for the rest of us, you know, we're in a raid situation or stuff like that. Like, you're just going to be able to Chi Wave. There's a talent that gets you some more healing off of yourself in the Shadow Pan tree. You know, the Chi Burst, Chi Wave, and Expel Harm heal you for 20% of the damage dealt. So that's going to be really tiny, but it's something.
Okay, that wouldn't be too bad, especially since it's completely passive, right?
Yeah, I mean, Expel Harm is passive now. That's not going to be a button that we're going to press.
Wait, what? How does that work?
Yeah.
Hold on.
So I don't know how Mistweavers do it, but for Windwalkers, we have it. It's the next node in the spec tree after Fists of Fury, where basically every 15 seconds your Tiger Palm is going to cast an Expel Harm. You know, so we'll have to go back to kind of, or not really go back, but we'll have to go to using Vivify for self heals. But we won't have to worry about casting Expel Harm to keep your Chi up or, you know, stuff like that. You won't have it for hit combo, which certainly is kind of the value of it right now, is that you use Expel Harm just to kind of keep your hit combo going. But we have crackling jade lightning that can kind of fill that in.
Oh no, that sounds terrible.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's
wait a
less
second.
than ideal.
Wait a second. Hold on. Go back.
Yeah.
Not that one. Okay, so wait, would you have kept Expel Harm as like a pressable button then?
Yeah, I mean it was now, and now it's not. It's built into Tiger Palm, so it definitely takes a little bit of that on-demand self-healing out of our hands.
Yeah.
Which is not great.
I guess it reduces the button bloat, which was one of the biggest issues that Windwalker was facing right now, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and really, it just kind of means that you'll probably stick with the Vivacious Vivification in the monk tree, so that you get the instant cast Vivify every 10 seconds, like in place of Expel Harm.
Oh, and you would use that as your hit combo extension as opposed to channeling Crackling and Jade Lightning.
I don't think. Oh, I don't Vivify. I don't think will extend hit combo.
Oh, okay.
But just in terms of healing yourself, in a pinch, that button will still be there. But yeah, I mean, in terms of continuing hit combo, how big of an issue that is kind of just comes down to how much time you have in between. If bosses have downtime and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, so last class tree stuff. Did you see that they've removed Generous Pour and
so that was the last thing that was kind of funny, because it really Windwalker has always struggled with that kind of utility chunk of things, and this kind of takes away some of the raid utility that we could have.
Yeah,
Windwalking is still there. It's still a hilariously abysmal 2% per point. So you'll probably find ways to go around it. Healing Winds on the left of it and Bounce Back on the right of it are both 1 point. So why not get 2 talents for the price of one that you'll never notice?
I mean, Bounce Back is, a talent that could be taken.
Yeah. And it's more, maybe even the fact that it really doesn't work all that well.
Oh, is it buggy? Oh no.
It's very, and it's one of the things that I think was fixed and then got broken again, and it just kind of nobody notices until you notice.
Did you see that there's a Transcendence?
The linking.
Turning into Wernstone? Yeah. What is that? Is that useful? I can't even feel like...
That is going to be very interesting. Escape from reality right now is kind of a fun thing to do when you need it. But being linked to somebody else, honestly, for me personally, as somebody who, despite having played Windwalker for a decade, I constantly forget to put my Transcendence down. So being able to set it to, like everybody knows, you have that one reliable person in your raid who's going to always be in the right spot. So I would set them as my partner, and then I'll just jump to them when I need. Not ever need to reset it. Having it stick around for an hour would be great.
Put it on your DK on Razageth.
Yeah, something. A rogue or something, and then that way when you do it sometime when they shadow step and you both end up in East Jabib.
All right, let's get to the main course here. Let's talk about the Windwalker changes. Is this a full rework? What exactly did they do?
Yeah, so they moved around quite a few talents. And then they also kind of ripped out a bunch. So I mean, it really is
a lot of new next to this.
50%. Yeah, it's probably about 50% new.
Okay.
A lot of the new is not new. Some of it is pulled in from other places, like Ordered Elements is really just Weapons of Order with a different name, which is great. I mean, Windwalkers have been, wanting Weapons of Order since they announced it coming back into Dragonflight. So that's new, but not actually new.
Okay.
One of the things that I think jumped out to me immediately is that Touch of Karma is not on here anymore. Touch of Karma is baseline now.
Oh, okay, that's good. I was gonna say, wait a second.
So we don't have to worry about talenting into that. That was like the first thing that I noticed, was that it wasn't in its spot. But there's definitely a big kind of shift. They really cut out a lot of the stuff. Bone Dust Brew is gone, and the talents
Skyreach is gone
with it. No, well, Sky Touch is still there. So you won't be zipped towards your target. I think the bigger concern that a lot of us have with Sky Touch and Sky Reach is the 50% increased crit chance tends to be very dominant. Into where you really want to do what you can to squeeze things into that very small 6-second window. So that sticking around is less than perfect. But given the quality of the rest of the changes, it's kind of, we'll take some of that.
Okay, so does this change your typical play style much? Like, okay, how much does this like affect your like in like your rotation, just like your general rotation?
Yeah, so it shouldn't really affect it shouldn't feel too different. The core of it is still there. It's still Fist of Fury. A lot of the stuff that they did kind of solidifies the core. Fist of Fury now with the talent for momentum boost, it does more damage each time it hits. So that'll cut down on the likelihood that we'll be canceling Fist of Fury like we are right now.
You're still canceling it? Okay.
Yeah, during Serenity, if you to get more Strike of the Windlords and Rising Sun Kick and stuff. So
I've never loved that for like new players who are trying to pick up the spec because it's just so counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. And it's something that they've tried, a dozen different ways to kind of stop. But just nothing has ever really stuck. So, this will hopefully cut back on that. There's a lot of, things that get tossed on top of Rising Sun Kick. So we'll make sure we keep pressing that. Strike of the Windlord is still there and is still strong with Thunder Fist and now Rushing Jadewind. Say it again.
Do you like Strike of the Windlord?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm not somebody that, kind of longed for the way it was when it first came out, where it would be like 30% of your damage in a single hit. But I like it. I do. I think I like Thunder Fist a lot. And the fact that they have added some more auto attack things into the spec tier or the spec tree kind of helps that a lot. A big problem with Thunder Fist is that when we cast Fist of Fury, you don't auto attack. So now after you cast Fist of Fury, you get 60% faster auto attacks for 8 seconds. So that kind of will balance out some of that and make it easier so that you're not worrying about missing out on using all of your Thunder Fist. That's a really nice quality of life change.
Okay, so what did this rework actually aim to accomplish, and did it do it? Yes.
Yeah, so I think it did it. I think it aimed to accomplish kind of cutting out a lot of the stuff that we don't use.
Okay, that's good.
Currently, Rushing Jadewind is a passive now and gets used automatically after Strike of the Windlord. And it's a talent you can talent into when you need and out when you don't, which is nice.
How many buttons are we losing here? Like
so Expel Harm, Expel Harm, Chi Burst, Cat Statue is at least 3. And that really, there's we won't be pressing Jade Fire Stomp or Phaline Stomp as often. There's no reset mechanic anymore.
Okay.
So you won't have to worry about standing on a line.
That's great,
which has been great. So even that you cast that every 30 seconds instead of every 10. So I mean it's at least kind of 3 big buttons. Kind of straight out the gate, which is really, really good. Weapons of Order is baked. There is no Serenity, but we get Stormearth and we get Weapons of Order in its place, which is something that some people had wanted and others not. But that gets baked into Stormearth and Fire, so you're not having to press any additional buttons and stuff like that. So it's kind of 3 big buttons.
It's like 5
off the top,
small, medium buttons total, or 5 total buttons, I guess. Okay, which is, I mean, that's a lot. That goes a long way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's huge, and a lot of the stuff. They added a lot of additional scaling to the spec. They buffed. They increased how much we get from mastery. So that'll help with that. It'll help stop mastery from kind of falling off the deep end. As well as they added haste scaling in quite a few places.
Where do they do that? Where do they add haste scaling?
Yeah, so one of the things is Glory of the Dawn currently has it's just a flat 25% chance to proc, and now it's whatever your haste percent is.
Because dude, forever Windwalker's been just like crit versatility, right?
Pretty much.
Is there any way that it's going to get to slightly more? Is this just going to like balance it a little bit? Obviously, or like how's this
It'll
going to
definitely balance it.
Okay.
They took out open palm strikes and a couple of the other kind of random resource generators. Tiger Palm, it's not in here, but Tiger Palm on the alpha costs 60 energy instead of 50. So it'll have the effect of kind of slowing the rotation down, but also giving haste a lot more value, so that if we are in a situation where, there is theoretically at least a chance that Windwalker wants to stack haste or get haste where it can.
Which that's not bad. it's kind of bad if one or two of your stats are completely useless.
Yeah, so it should bring up haste and mastery quite a lot. In terms of competing with crit and versatility. How much, obviously is something that we'll have to be able to play around with and see. But there's a lot in here that kind of boosts haste's value. Haste increases the damage done by Fist of Fury now, as well, in the momentum boost talent. So there's a lot of kind of little things like that even though we'll have less kind of random resource generation, there'll be a lot more purposeful resource generation. And the way it should work is the rotation should be very similar to now. The play style should be very similar to now. It should just be more consistent.
Cool.
Players
are you happy with the changes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and some of the Windwalker people can say, I was just the other day saying like, man, I'm really struggling. With this, I've been playing Feral Druid. I'm back playing Feral Druid this past season and for season 4. But with these changes, I mean, the chances of me, not playing Windwalker are almost zero. I mean, these are a lot of the changes that I wanted, and really in the spirit of what I think is great for the spec.
Just to look behind the curtain a little bit, whenever you said that you were going to be at work, and before we like completely changed our schedule to have you like basically the last person on to come talk about the class, I DM'd Speed to come talk about Windwalker, and he's like, dude, I haven't played that in months at this point, because I just have not been playing Windwalker at all. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody in Discord said it best, is the biggest problem with these War Within changes is that we're not going to have them for season 4.
Yeah,
if they could just swap them over, that would be lovely.
How are the hero talents looking for Windwalker? Because you have Shadowpan and what's the other one? Conduit Celestials.
Conduit of Celestials, yeah. Conduit is one that looks a lot better now with a lot of these changes. Conduit leans very much into Rushing Jadewind.
Okay.
So Rushing Jadewind being a passive off of Strike of the Windlord and not being as awful to press makes Conduit significantly more potentially enjoyable. Which is really nice. It should help kind of balance. We won't just be spamming spinning crane kick in AoE. It should keep all of the buttons relevant in AoE and stuff. So that should be really good. And Shadowpan was kind of the one that I preferred, just because it's a little bit more single target focused and stuff.
Okay.
But it should be good. The number of buttons that we're pressing will change, so it'll be kind of hard.
This one is sick. I remember looking at this one. This one's the Brewmaster Windwalker one, right?
Yeah, Brewmaster Windwalker, yeah. But it should be really good. I mean, we won't be spending energy quite as fast as we would have previously, but if we're stacking haste, we could be spending it faster. So, a lot of that, the strength of it and how this stuff affects is something that we'll have to figure out in weeks to come. But it is pretty much, across the board with minor nitpicks, a huge net positive for the spec.
Love that. Okay, I have a question.
Yeah,
how's your attacks penetrate 10% armor? How does that work?
I think it's just armor pen the old way. We talked about it a little bit when it first came out. And I think it's just going off of the armor modifier and just kind of 10% off of that. I don't know if it does, because it doesn't say that it turns into nature damage or anything. I think it's just like the old armor pen stat used to be way back in, I don't know, Burning Crusade or whatever that was.
Gotcha. Dude, I didn't play back then, so I just see this and I was like, I don't know how this works. Like, how do you even calc this? Do mobs have armor?
Yes, yeah. So there's and the tank people will be able to cover this a lot better.
This might be an insane question. I just didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, if Hina's in chat, in Twitch chat, probably watching, he's my go-to expert on the armor pen numbers. But he, yeah, the tank people will be able to tell you better. But yeah, all characters and mobs and stuff have a set kind of armor percent.
Gotcha.
Or an armor's number. So. And then there's like a K value or something, which doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, it basically just works that way.
Cool. All right. Final question. Have you finished your season 4 guide update?
No.
Have you started?
I mean, the biggest thing I think is probably the trinkets. Like that's kind of the biggest hassle. So I spent Monday doing that. So I put nothing to paper. But I tried to do like the background work, but that's
I think you're vastly ahead of me then.
Well, I was gonna be a lot more ahead if I didn't have all this excitement today.
Oh, okay, good call.
Distracting. So,
all right, cool. Are you turning on your stream right now? What are you about to do?
I'm probably it was supposed to rain here, but it's sunny now, so I'm probably gonna go for a run and then probably turn my stream on after dinner and get a lot of that stuff done.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, Babs. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find. I'm typically the only Babylonius in the world. So twitch.tv/Babylonius, Twitter, Babylonius as well, or X or whatever it's called.
I still call it Twitter. Good call.
Yeah, if it with coming back to Windwalker as it's looking like I'm going to be very enthusiastic about, probably fire the YouTube back up again, which is Babylonius Monk. And stuff. So pretty much anywhere that you can Google Babylonius is almost certainly going to be me.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you for coming on.
No problem. Thanks, Tettles. Thanks for having me.
Later, buddy.
Take it easy.